Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Feature Flashback. This is episode 4. This is the show where we look back to this very same week, 10 years ago, and we watch the hit films that came out, and we talk about how they held up. If we're seeing them for the first time now, are they any good? Should you at home watch them? And we've got a very big
What
week.
other questions are we begging of our audience?
What happens when you die? And where do babies come from? But
Please ask your parents.
my name is Jacob Sanger, and with me, as always, is our lovely host.
Me?
Yes, you.
And I am Colin Spalton.
And today, oh boy, we have a real slobber knocker for you though at home.
This is a big one.
Maybe the biggest week of 2012.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, not to jump ahead, but the biggest weekend of cinema history.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know about adjusted for inflation, but
Yeah.
biggest weekend
since
of all time.
James Cameron's Avatar. I have to say.
Biggest weekend until James Cameron's Avatar, The Way of Water.
Yes, most anticipated movie. Actually, I don't know if I want to be on record saying that.
I'll say it. It's one of my most anticipated. Everyone doubts Avatar.
Yeah. Okay.
It's gonna be great.
I'm glad I'm here with you because
Yeah.
I have been singing the praises of Avatar since 2009, and a lot of people. Everyone forgets they were there in 2009 loving Avatar, and everyone now.
Yeah, now, because, I don't know do you know Jack's Films on YouTube?
I think so,
He's because he's made a whole bit out of, name a character from Avatar. You can't. The movie's not memorable, whatever. But also, it's it's an experience. I don't know the side character. I know the main character's his title name, but I don't know the side characters of Lawrence of Arabia. I can't name them off my head.
Yeah. Or Casablanca. You got Rick and.
But even then, Avatar, you got Jake Sully, you got Neytiri, you got the main villain Quaritch.
Yeah, Taruk Makta. They call him Last Shadow.
That movie is gonna fuck. But you know what's also crazy about that movie? Just to tie into the theme, it came out so long. We're just getting a sequel now.
Yeah.
We're way past flashing back to that movie.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're 3 years past when we would be able to watch Avatar. But at least we'll have an opening segment when Avatar 2 comes out about how we watched it. Mm-hmm. Which leads me to, have you watched anything new, Colin?
This week we're currently in our final week of college.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about you, but at least anything new that came out, I've been actually catching up on a lot of TV.
Yeah.
Because I don't watch a ton of shows, I feel like, but when I do, they all air at the exact same time. So I'm getting caught up on Better Call Saul, Barry, and the Amazon show Undone, which I was telling you about earlier this week. That show I love.
Yeah. Actually, another person recently told me to watch it, so I was like, okay.
Yeah, we are both from San Antonio, Texas, and it is one of maybe the only things I've ever seen set in the beautiful city of San Antonio besides the Alamo and Miss Congeniality.
Miss Congeniality's in San I've never seen that.
Yeah, there's a big part of the competition that takes place in front of the Alamo.
Wow.
And then another part that takes place on the Riverwalk.
Yeah.
All great places that you'll see when you visit San Antonio.
I mean, we're not sponsored by the great city of San Antonio, though we could be.
Oh, I would take that sponsorship in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. But I think the Alamo is a genius place to set apart in your film because it's kind of everyone knows it, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Also,
right, yeah, the basement of the Alamo.
That one's really funny because you can tell they definitely shot just a shot of him going into the Alamo and then leaving the Alamo. Because there's a shot where he runs out of it, and then when you see the next part of him running, it's the most Southern California.
Yeah.
It's just desert and palm trees.
I also haven't watched that much new stuff. This doesn't even really count as new, but I did take my roommate to finally see Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, yeah. Do you see it in IMAX? Because it was back in IMAX this
We
week.
didn't. We were going to wait for IMAX, but we had one free night, and because we were both really busy, and we were like, you know what? Rather than trying to squeeze in IMAX, let's just go see it now.
Yeah,
and and honestly, I might have liked it better more the second time.
Yeah, I really would. I want to see it again. Oh, it's because it's doing really well.
Yeah,
it's doing pretty well. It's holding, which is the big thing. It's not increasing much, but it's not dropping at all.
Yeah.
That's also what Avatar did.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot more than a lot of movies can say.
Mm-hmm. No, better than Morbius can say.
Morbius. This was the summer of Morbius. It's not even summer yet.
The summer is barely starting, and Morbius is out of theaters.
Yeah. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we talked about it already, but like, I think it like emotionally got me harder this time. Like it. Wait, hold on. I didn't mean like that. I just meant like.
Wait, what do you mean?
We'll
it emotionally got you?
I said it got me harder.
This is staying in. This is staying in.
But all the stuff, moving on, all the stuff with the character Waymond, like I just think is so like touching and sweet, and I really like that. And my roommate would probably like me to say that he like has only seen it once, but he was like, "This is in my top 5."
Oh yeah,
ever. Like
yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much. I also watched Yoon Wo Ping's The Iron Monkey on my Roku TV, and yeah, check that out.
All right, but yeah, so should we look back at how this weekend?
Yeah,
how the cards fell.
This is a big weekend.
It's a big weekend. It's a very big weekend. May 4th, 2012.
Star
a date
Wars.
Which will live in infamy. A date that I will remember as a young boy, because I saw on the poster every time I went to the movie. But yes, May 4th, 2012. Can you guess what was number 1 at the box office?
Well, I mean, it's probably Hunger Games in its 7th week.
It is.
No, it's not.
Yes, number 1 at the box office is The Avengers, $207 million.
Oh my god.
$207.4 million.
Which I believe is almost its entire budget.
Yeah, I think so, because it probably had a 200. Yeah, at least according to Box Office Mojo, a $220 million budget.
Yeah.
So, I know. How embarrassing. But yes, this was the biggest opening of any movie of all time. Not just for inflation, of course, but no one had anything to do back then. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you guess what it beat? Like what was number 1 before? It was a movie from a year earlier.
Oh, weird. So 2011.
It was the end of a very big franchise, the biggest franchise of the time.
Oh, weird. Okay, so it's not Hunger Games because that's the first
just
one.
Starting.
The biggest franchise. Oh, Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was Deathly Hallows Part 2.
That
had the biggest opening weekend. It was like 190 or something. So this really just took off. But yeah. Second place. Do you want to guess?
Well, it's not the other movie we're talking about.
No, it's not. It is. I'll tell you. It's Think Like a Man. Holding. Well, I probably would have held a little better. Just Avengers definitely kind of sucked a little out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because also I should mention Doctor Strange is coming out tomorrow, or I guess tonight as of recording. And I was looking just to see what movies were playing in theaters because there was some I've been meaning to catch up on, and tomorrow. There's some big movie theaters that are playing Doctor Strange for a whole page of times, and then 3 other movies.
Yeah.
And these are places with 15 screens.
Yeah.
So that definitely contributes to it because pretty much everything else took at least a 50% drop from looking at it. But yeah, Think Like a Man. It's made $70 million at this point. Number 3, I want you to get.
The Three Stooges.
No.
The Lucky One?
No.
Is this something we've covered?
No.
Oh. Hunger Games.
It is Hunger Games, and it's 7th week.
Good for them. Also, seriously good for Think Like a Man that they were able to hold the second. They were in the top 5 during the Avengers week.
Yeah, top number 2. But yeah, Hunger Games, and then Pirates. The Pirates Band of Misfits, which fell 50%.
Poor pirates.
And then The Lucky One. I do imagine if any guys are like, baby, we gotta see the Avengers, and they're like, can we see The Lucky One? Some poor soul definitely did.
Okay.
Lucky One's number 5. 5-year engagement, not doing hot.
Makes sense.
Three Stooges at number 10. that's made 39 million. Cabin in the Woods after it made 38 million at this point.
Okay, not bad.
Then John Carter for some reason, which what is going on here? That's so weird. Because on Box Office Mojo, it said, because like usually it says like how the number of theaters, like and how it changes. This weekend it went up 169 theaters, and so because it made like 1.5 million, and so it says like the gross change, it is up 1,223% from last week.
Man. How did we not cover John Carter?
We just missed it. I wanted to cover John Carter.
That would be
if we make it to the end of this year, we gotta do just a catch-up recap.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was maybe like the switch to dollar theaters or something.
That's my thought maybe. But
Yeah.
even then, like making $1.5 million from dollar theaters.
Yeah, for real.
That's like every single person in America went to see.
That's
John Carter.
every summer camp took all of their kids to see it.
But then all the way down number 16th, we have the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel in 27 theaters as compared to 4,300 for the Avengers. But yeah,
sorry, did you say 27 theaters?
27 theaters.
Oh my
27
God.
period.
Oh my
So
God.
this was a platform release of that's what they call it, where they release it in a few theaters, get some buzz, like get that kind of indie darling stuff, and then a few weeks later they just kind of add on some. It's kind of what Everything Everywhere did.
Okay.
So I think it only came out in like 10, 20. It came out in like a few hundred theaters when it first did, and then it expanded to like over 1,000.
Yeah.
And now you can see it most anywhere. But yeah, so this did that, and because I remember when looking at it, it was debating like, because it did go wide like 3 weeks later, same weekend as Battleship.
Oh, okay.
But that has other movies we can talk about, and this is a great case of counter programming. Let's jump into the big movie of the week.
Without further ado, the movie that you've all been waiting for since you started this podcast.
Yes, the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. What's your history, Jacob?
So actually, whereas some of the other movies we've talked about, I literally had like no memory of them.
Mm-hmm.
This one I really remember the buzz for whatever reason. Like I don't know if it's because like a friend of mine in middle school, his parents were English. Like
he was a buzz. Oh my! There's a new Judi Dench.
A new Judi Dench picture. Well, his dad was British, I should say. But
He didn't have an accent.
no, actually, a lot of people. This is so unrelated, but a lot of people would be like, "Oh my God, I love your accent," and I was like, he literally like I was their friend, and it was twins, and they would always tell me they were like, "We don't have an accent. We just like they say things the pronunciation of their parents, like garage and aluminium, but everything else was an American accent." But anyway,
Went to the cinema.
I went down to the corner store. So I had never seen this movie, but like I knew of it for a long time. And it's so weird because I feel like Dev Patel is a huge star now, but at the time it was really just this and Slumdog Millionaire, I feel like. And so it was weird.
Do not forget The Last Airbender.
Oh my God, I literally did.
I think I think it's exactly like 2 years between each. Slumdog Millionaire in 2008 wins Best Picture. Last Airbender in 2010 plays Zuko, and then this in 2012.
Yeah, which I've never seen Last Airbender, but I'm sure this is an upgrade.
Yeah. Oh my God. It definitely is.
But it's so weird to see him like in like classic Dave Patel roles because now he's like the Green Knight.
Yeah, he's getting he's getting a lot more interesting roles than just like
guy.
Guy in India.
Exactly. Which also like I'm pretty sure this is the same thing with like we talked about like Randall Park. I'm pretty sure Dev Patel just has an English accent.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you must be from Jaipur.
At least this one's better than the Randall Park one because like this one he has to be like the character has to have that accent.
He's
he has
in
to
India.
be.
Yeah.
He's born, raised India.
Yeah.
Which I think he is British Indian or like may have been raised in Britain. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But it's not like Randall Park where he's just like a guy in Michigan.
And they're like, actually you're Ming from China.
Or Korea. I don't remember which one. Is he from China or Korea?
I think in real life he's Korean, and they made him Chinese, which is just another insult to injury. But yeah, so I'd never seen it, watched it, I watched it in a kind of a weird way where I watched one chunk and I thought I could watch the whole movie, but I literally got to a point where I went, let me check how much is left. I bet it's only 20 minutes. And I paused it and there was like 58 minutes left. And it was like 3 a.m. And I was like, okay, I'm finishing this tomorrow. Jeez. So I watched it in 2 chunks. But like, despite that and despite it being, maybe not a movie I would usually seek out, I actually had a good time. Like, all in all, I really liked the best exotic Marigold Hotel.
Was it the best exotic Marigold Hotel?
For my money, I think this was the best exotic Marigold. I can't even say it.
It's such a mouthful.
I know. There was the part where Dev Patel comes out and he goes, "Welcome to the best exotic Marigold Hotel," and I was like, "That's such a trailer moment." Like I feel like I literally remember that. Yeah.
I remember seeing. Okay, so my history with this one. Funny title. Honestly, it's very similar to me with Think Like a Man because it's a very punchy title, long title, and then it got a sequel and it has a big stacked cast.
Yeah.
So it's similar in that, and I knew it was like old English actors in India. I figured they were we're English people, we're gonna go to India and start a hotel or something. But so that's what I figured the movie was. I do remember when the second one came out. And there is a distinct moment in the trailer of like, "Welcome to the second best exotic Marigold Hotel."
Is Dev Patel in the second one?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think everyone's in the second one that can be,
except for Graham. Spoiler.
Oh god. But yeah, I knew I had my assumptions about the movie. But yeah, watching it, I had a great time with this one. Yeah. This was a lovely little movie in my opinion.
It had that kind of vibe of. Like, damn, I can't think of a good example, but like I feel like a lot of times I'll watch kind of a classic like road trip movie or something, and it gives me that vibe of like, this is just nice. This just feels right, and that's the vibe I got from this. At least for the first like act where they're getting out there and getting established. It was still good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it slowed down a little bit once they actually got to India.
The plot of the best exotic Marigold Hotel.
Yes, let's break it down.
It's a bunch of English actors. You got Judi Dench, you got Tom Wilkinson, you got Bill Nighy with his wife, who
I did not know, but Shaun of the Dead.
Well, it's just funny because it's the same wife that Bill Nighy has in Shaun of the Dead. A very funny reteaming of them.
Yeah.
It's them. Oh, Maggie Smith. Can't forget her.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones. Like they're the ones that are on the poster. And then there are other two. Celia Imrie. She plays the character of Madge.
Yeah, Madge.
And then Norman is Ronald Pickup. Which both of them I was looking into their like IMDb's. This is kind of the biggest thing that they have. Ronald Pickup was the king in Prince of Persia.
Okay.
And he was Neville Chamberlain in Darkest Hour, which I do remember that. But they seem like they both like been on Downton Abbey at some point.
Yeah.
And like been in like a bunch of like British TV.
Yeah, Madge looked really familiar, but I couldn't figure out where I knew her from.
There is a connection to something else from last episode with both of these movies.
Kevin Hart.
No. Wait, sadly, we only went 2 weeks with Kevin Hart. But so you remember how the Pirate King was voiced by the same guy who did Boss Nass in Phantom Menace? Well, there is another Phantom Menace actor, small Phantom Menace role in this movie. So Madge, she's in the Phantom Menace as fighter pilot Bravo 5.
Excellent.
I think she's one of the Naboo fighters in that, which her voice I think sounds vaguely familiar.
Classic Star Wars character. She probably goes like, head for the course, head for the ship.
I think I do remember where he's like, look at that, it's blowing up from the inside.
Oh wait, yes, I know
her.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. See these random people that we've seen a million times.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
She's not that one. That would be hilarious though if she played young Anakin. But yeah, so this movie, it's all these established English actors. They are all living in England. Life is shit. It's horrible.
They all have extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, like Judi Dench, her husband's recently died. Tom Wilkinson is a judge, I believe, who was just retired.
I definitely thought he was like a professor, but they kept calling him judge. So.
Mm-hmm. Bill Nighy and his wife, they don't have a lot of money, and they're like the options aren't great for them on living places. Oh, and Maggie Smith is racist.
Yeah, that's her main character.
That's her character flaw.
She's racist first against black people and then mostly against Indian people.
Yeah, just because she's in the hospital, you find out she needs a hip replacement, and someone comes up, she's like, I haven't seen a doctor, and they're like, oh, we tried to have a doctor see you, and they're like, oh, we can have that. He tried to see you, and she points to a black man, and Maggie Smith goes, oh, because he's washing his hands at like a rinse station. She's like, oh, I don't know why. If he keeps scrubbing so hard, it won't come off.
Yeah,
something like that.
Maggie Smith. I know she's good at heart.
But yeah, but then there's a deal of like there's a program because it'll take like months to get a hip replacement. In Britain, but if she goes to India, she'll be able to get it fairly quickly. And then we meet two other characters, Norman and Madge. We don't get much with them. They're like Norman is kind of an old man who's a player. Yeah. And Madge is, I guess she's kind of
the
same.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, they're similar.
They both are like single and wanting to like not give up their like
romantic
swinging
pursuits.
lifestyle. And so when they get to India, they're both trying to like meet suitors.
But yeah, so they all separately, I thought they'd all be friends, but no, they all separately decide to go to the best exotic Marigold hotel, which has for the elderly and beautiful.
Yeah. Which that was the only part of the movie that I was a little confused on. I was like,
how'd they find out about this damn place?
Because I think one, I can't remember who now, but one of them I feel like gets told about it. And they go, oh, that sounds nice. But then the rest of them just show up. And I'm like, how did y'all all hear about this? We learned, decrepit hotel.
Yeah.
Also, I just have to address the elephant in the room. Or maybe it's only an elephant for me. But
no elephants in this movie, though.
Oh, yeah.
They
reference them a couple times.
You think they'd get one because that's like, oh, it's in India.
Yeah.
Put an elephant. It's no Cheetah Girls 3.
That's true. That's for damn sure. But I did feel like there were moments more towards the beginning where I felt like it was a little like Orientalist and like they're like, oh, a colonialist, like the exotic India.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you're a bunch of British people coming to this place that you colonized. Like it was a bit odd, we're discovering a bit of that 2012 flavor.
Yeah. I think one thing I'll commend about, because I was thinking about this, like, is this a movie about like, colonization in a way? But I think one thing at least that they did, they could have been a lot worse that they did, but I think I would commend this movie that the movie's more about them coming to India and kind of learning to live more in that culture. It's more about them getting accustomed to that culture rather than them coming in and be like, all right, let's civilize this land.
Yeah, because the only one who really says anything like that is Jean, who's Bill Nighy's wife. And then she ends up becoming...
she's quite a character.
Yeah, I will say I liked that she was like a villain kind of, but they made her a real person. She wasn't just like a cartoon character. Like there were moments where I felt sorry for her. Yeah. But she was the first one to say like, oh, I thought this country is more civilized than I thought or something. And I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, because she says something about that when they're in the airport, and it's like, an airport, like a normal looking airport. She's like, oh, it's more civilized than I thought. And then the smash cut to outside, and it's like, a horde of people, like all crammed together, and there's the music
and tuk-tuks.
But yeah, they go to the hotel and discover that it is not what was promised in the brochure. It's being run by Dev Patel. It's very decrepit.
Yeah. Still beautiful, though.
I would say.
Yeah, they had some beautiful archways. Although there was one room they tried to put Madge in that didn't have a door. Which at first I was like, okay, whatever. I get you want your privacy.
It's a hotel.
Yeah, but
you want a door with a lock.
Maybe I'm just a little more bohemian, but I then realized, she wants to bring home some elderly suitors.
True.
She wants to have a lot.
That is true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but yeah, Dev Patel I thought was very charming, likable. I did think he felt
was fun.
Yeah, I felt like sometimes he felt a little like he was in like a different movie, or like especially just because I didn't watch a lot of Dev Patel stuff when he was younger, but like coming from like The Green Knight and stuff, I'm like, oh wow, he definitely is like,
he's very talented.
Yeah, he's like
Dev Patel for James Bond.
Honestly,
that just came to my head.
that'd be kind of sweet. But I feel like he's hamming it up here a little more than usual. But it's like
he's playing more of a character, like more of a specific character.
But it's definitely like what the role is.
Yeah. And he's doing a good job of it.
Yeah,
and he's really fun.
By the end, at first I was like, oh boy. But by the end, I was like, this is a really likable character. And like his whole thing with Sunena, his girlfriend, I was like, this is really sweet and has become like a lot of the heart of the movie for me. But yeah, I like how he is so like steadfast with that. He's like talking about how great it is and it's like falling apart in front of them.
Yeah, because his character's interesting because he shows up and he's like playing that salesman role of like like someone will say like like you don't have plumbing, and he's like, plumbing will be coming very soon, ma'am. And just constantly like trying to turn things into a positive. And I think that kind of works, I guess, jumping ahead a little, but near the end, because you find out that like this hotel was his father's kind of dream. It didn't really pan out. And Dev Patel's running it, and his mother comes in and is basically like, no, we're gonna sell it. Because his mother doesn't believe in dreams. Or love. Because she does that, and then Dev Patel informs them that he's going to be closing, but I really like that scene because he's still like trying to paint it as like a positive. It's like the very exciting Best Exotic Marigold Hotel will be closing forever.
And he's like, but it's okay. I'll get to move home and marry someone my mother chose. And
like I like that kind of dimension to the character of like he's just always on that salesman mode.
And then it makes it really cool when he like finally breaks and he's like he stands up for what he wants.
Yeah, once they're in India, everyone kind of has their own little their own kind of reasons why they're in India. Yeah,
it's not like a A to B story. It's like everyone has their own thing they're doing. Like, as we mentioned, Norman and Madge are like kind of trying to find someone. Norman is more, I guess Madge is maybe the same way, but they don't really explain. But Norman is definitely like, I'm lonely and old and I want to have sex. And then Evelyn, who's Judi Dench.
She had to move anyway. She had to move somewhere because like her husband had a lot of debt, so she sold her apartment. And I don't know why she did. I'm a little confused on why exactly she decided India was the move, but she did. She moves there and she ends up getting a job for a call center, which I thought was an interesting aspect. It's the only part of the movie that I thought was kind of like, all right, let me show y'all how it's done. But it is like, they are talking to people from England, which
I thought was it was a little bit like white saviory, but that being said, like it wasn't done in a way that she was like, oh, like let me show you how it's done. She was just like,
and they do not spend much time on it. There's like one scene of her at her job.
Honestly, it was kind of one of those things where I was like, this movie in a weird way. I thought this about a couple movies we watched, but like. In a weird way, it feels like I'm in like screenwriting class and someone's like pitching it. They're like, okay, what about a bunch of old British people? And I'm like, okay, I see it. Like there are moments where
I've definitely felt that in some of these movies.
I can literally imagine the writer like doing research on like how call centers work to be able to write it.
But she does that, which is also conveniently where where Dev Patel's girlfriend lives. Is his girlfriend that his mother does not approve of.
I know.
So much drama.
And the scene where they meet, oh my god. We'll get there.
That scene was hilarious.
I think we're just learning as these episodes go on that I'm just single and alone and lonely. But I was like, watching like that part of that movie, I was like, oh my god. I was like, they're so sweet. This is such a lovely tale. I was like but I feel like every episode I'm like, oh my god, Megan Good.
Well, in terms of the romance in this movie, there is, we have Madge and Norman. They're on their own little journey. They're looking for love and tail. And the Bill Nighy and his wife, they're the ones that are just kind of like, this is our retirement. And Bill Nighy's like, I want to go look at a temple, and his wife just hates being there so much.
She's like, I want to read books and not eat anything Indian. I want to eat grilled chicken.
I wonder why I'm horrible. I'm so angry that I'm here. I just sit in this house with no air conditioning.
Oh my god, yeah.
But then my favorite, I don't know about you, but the part of the movie that surprised me the most was Tom Wilkinson's part.
I was gonna say too.
My jaw dropped when it kind of revealed why he's there.
Yeah. I kind of was like, honestly, I want like a whole movie that's
too.
this. Yeah, because it was so good. Do you want to say?
Yeah, so it's revealed. We see that he keeps going to like some public records office. He's looking for someone. And then he finally talks to Judi Dench and he reveals he was born in India. While he lived in India, he had a very close friend who was an Indian boy. And they were the same age and they realized that they were more than friends. And he talks about like they spent like this weekend together at this lake and it was the happiest he's ever been in his life. But then they got found out and Tom Wilkinson got sent back to England and I guess, eventually became a judge and everything, but he has not seen or heard from his friend in that time. So he's come back here now that he's retired to track him down. And I was shocked at that because this seemed like a movie targeted at like baby boomers and everything, targeted for like the older generation. So it was kind of shocking to me that they went so heavily on like, a gay romance part.
And it made me wonder like what all of that is like in England, because here in America, for all of our American listeners, which I'm sure there are, if you're listening, you're probably in America.
Yeah. I think our stats on that were 100% American.
And, but I like here.
We love our foreign listeners, though, our prospective foreign listeners.
Hey, some of my friends are gonna go abroad in the summer, so maybe we'll have
there we go.
A couple. But I thought it was pretty cool that in 2012 they had this movie where all these old people are finding out their friend is gay, and they were all just like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, are you gonna change him?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Even Maggie Smith, who was racist, was like, okay.
All right.
And so I thought that was nice, because sometimes, like, I don't know what being gay is like in England or in India.
But especially because, I mean, he was a young gay boy in, like, what, like the
70s,
60s?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and that's why I was like, I want a whole movie about this, because that transition of like we couldn't be together then, but like what are we like now?
Yeah, they've lived, because he kind of has this idea of like, oh, did I ruin this, like this person I care about? Did I ruin his life? Like, was he ostracized? All this stuff, but so it then eventually happens in the movie that they reunite, they find each other. Yeah. And that scene made me cry.
Aww.
It was so beautiful.
No, I also got like goosebumps. My jaw, like you said, my jaw dropped. I was like, it was surprisingly sweet. And that like him and Minaj, and of course like they can't actually be together because Minaj has a wife now. Yeah. And that's all handled really well too. It's not like, she didn't know, and it's this whole dramatic thing. It's like, no, she knew, but it's also not like Tom Wilkinson's gonna be with him kind of thing. It's like it just is what it is.
Because the moment that happens, he finally finds out from the public records where this person is. He goes there. A woman answers, who's his wife, and then I forget what he says, but he's like, oh, like if you could tell him this, that'd be amazing. And then she just like she kind of is giving like she knows who he is just from saying that. And then she just kind of steps forward in the door and then calls to like a group of guys across the street playing cards. And then one of them just stands up, turns around, and you just have we're very far away from them, and you have that moment of them walking up together and just hugging. Yeah. And it's so sweet.
It was kind of tense at first because I was like, oh my God, like, how's he going to react? And then I was like, they can't do this to me. Like, don't make it sad. And then when they hugged, I was like, oh my God.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. It was so sweet.
I'm getting emotional just thinking about that part. Like, if I would want a whole movie out of that story.
For real.
But okay, so then I guess the other story we should talk about is Maggie Smith. As we mentioned, she is racist. But I like it because the it's not like All in the Family, where there's no mistaking like that we're supposed to love her, that she's love her when she's racist.
Oh, like All in the Family is Archie.
Yeah, Archie Bunker. Yeah. That's the one that we watched in a film class that had Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's like, what? I just don't think gay people deserve to live. Laugh
and we're
track.
Like, womp womp. Yeah. Archie Bunker.
And I just hate black people. But this one, it's like there's an early scene where before they go to India, where she like a hospital person is taking her home in a wheelchair, and she's saying all this stuff about people in India and all this stuff, and then the hospital clerk just like stops and leaves her in the middle of the day. It's like, you can get yourself up. And then she's like, what? You're supposed to get me up my stairs? He's like, my wife's from Mumbai.
Yeah.
That was a good moment, just be like, okay, yeah, we know she is a horrible person.
Yeah. I like that. And I like that they gave her a good reason, because it's like, why would a person like this ever go to India?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because she can't get a hip anywhere else. So I was like, okay, that's a good reason.
Yeah, which it reminded me, because my mom got a hip replacement a few years ago, and when she got it, because it was a long like recovery process, she basically had to learn to walk again, kind of. Or it wasn't. That's how it makes sense. I think that's a little more extreme than that, but like it was very painful, and so there were some points where she got very pissed. Just like, it's not even like anything you do. It's just like it's so much pain. So there's some moments with Maggie Smith where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so she has a nice redemption. She learns not to be racist. Cause yeah, like there's a like maid at the hotel who like brings her food, which I did have a weird point with, cause she brings her food and then just like throughout as it goes, like she starts kind of like, the maid doesn't speak English. Yeah. But she just kind of starts like acknowledging her and stuff, just like, thanking her for her food, and like she says something about how she's sweeping. Yeah,
because we learned that Maggie Smith used to be a nanny or like maid for this other family in England.
Yeah, for a rich family, and like she treated the kids like they were her own, but then they got a new nanny and kind of threw her out. Oh yeah, because the maid like at some point invites Maggie Smith to meet like her family, her very big family. Yeah, and she has a translator with her, and she's like, "Why? Why'd you do that?" And she's like, "You're the only one who acknowledges her." And I'm like, why aren't the others like? They're nice. The other adults at the hotel.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that because I just accepted it because I learned in high school about the Indian caste system, which like I don't think is a thing anymore. Question mark. I'm not qualified to speak on this, but like because Tom Wilkinson says like, oh, they used to refer to her as an untouchable. And so I just assumed that, she's used to people not really giving her the time of day. But yeah, that's a good point, because I didn't think about like, why is Judi Dench not talking to her?
why is Judi Dench and Tom Wilkinson, why are they just like, oh, do not look at me?
Yeah, but I did think that was I thought Maggie Smith was a really good character. It felt, it did have that feeling of like, someone came up with this character because they're such a good like foil, Yeah. But I thought, even besides that, she was a very well-written character in that she, like, it's like she needs this thing, but she has to do this. Yeah. And then it's like she doesn't like these people, but she can relate to them. Like, so it's really
She learns to love them, and then eventually, it all works out.
She ends up kind of being the hero.
Kind of, yeah. She kind of saves the day at the end. Yeah. So I guess we can get to more to the end of... The movie is kind of weird because it's so many characters. There are some points where I swear to God, Dev Patel disappeared for like 20 minutes. Yeah. But it's because there's so many other stories we're following. Yeah. But we get to the end. Dev Patel's mom is deciding we're going to sell the hotel. They're going to tear it down, whatever. And then Maggie Smith, because not only was she like the nanny for this rich family, she also was their bookkeeper that she mentioned. So she runs the numbers. Yeah. On all their stuff, and finds out that this hotel can be viable, which I don't know how she figured that out, but
it's literally one line where she goes, "I took care of the money."
Let's see, no money, no input, none of this, but it can make money.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna like just use her charm to convince Mr. Maruthi,
which I guess she kind of did.
She kind of did, yeah. She talked to him again.
She convinces another man to invest in the hotel.
But yeah, everything. There's a real low point where, oh my gosh,
because it hurt me so much.
It was very conflicting because, like, on one hand, I really didn't like Jean because she was such a wet blanket about being in India, and like I am someone who I love to travel. I've been very lucky in that I've gotten to like go to a few other countries. But I've never been like, oh, I gotta get to India. Not because I don't like it, but I just never. It's not been high on my list. But watching this movie, I was like, I would for sure go to India. And then like, so seeing her be like such a stick in the mud, I was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. When they're headed to India, she's like, oh, it's gonna be an exotic adventure, all this stuff. But then when it's like, then actually confronted with it, she's just kind of crumbles completely and shuts down.
Yeah. But they managed to get me because I was like, oh, and then maybe this speaks to the actor because, she's just a sweet old lady. And she's, like in Shaun of the Dead, she's a really sweet.
Yeah. Penelope Wilton.
Yeah, shout out. Because even though she was like very unlikable at times, at the end, so the low point their daughter like has borrowed a lot of their money.
Yeah,
and
that's why they don't have much retirement savings.
Yeah,
they borrowed a bunch of money for a tech startup.
Yeah, and then they get word that it's finally worked out. They can come back to England, but at this point, Bill Nighy has started to perhaps have a little crush on Judi Dench, and she perhaps feels the same way. But he's married, but
to a hag.
Yeah, we know it's Lovelace.
Yeah,
we know he's as a highwayman, bewitched by a banshee upon the moors. But
what do you expect me to say to that?
what do I say to a guy like you?
What do I say to that? But you're leaving a major part out of the low point.
What's that?
When Tom Wilkinson dies.
Oh my God.
Tom Wilkinson, after he has this beautiful reunion, I think it's the next day.
Literally.
He comes home and he's talking to Norman in like their yard, and he's sitting there, and then Norman leaves. He's sitting there alone, and he has this kind of pained look in his face, like maybe there's something wrong emotionally. And then Judi Dench comes to talk with him, and then she sees that he has died.
Yeah.
And then we learn that he came to India to meet him because he had a heart condition.
Yeah.
And knew that he had limited time.
Which I didn't know how I felt about. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was like, why did they reveal it that way? Because I feel like I knew he was gonna die because Judi Dench came over and was like saying something, and then she stops in her tracks and looks at him, and I was like, okay, he's dead. But I was like, I don't know what it would have done to the story overall, but I feel like it makes more sense to have known that he was sick before he left.
I think he knew that he was sick.
Yeah.
I don't know. What I was really worried about was like when he had that, because he had that kind of pained look on his face when he was sitting alone, which I guess we realized was like a heart attack. But I was worried that it was just like starting to feel like sorrow, and I was worried that she was gonna come up to him and he will have like killed himself.
That's what I thought too.
I was really worried because I thought that would have been really bad.
Yeah.
Of just like, all right, I've done my last deed.
Yeah.
So I think this it's a nice reveal, and it makes sense with everything.
I think that's kind of why it rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. And I mean, once they explained it, I didn't feel as bad about it. Once they were like, he had a heart condition, I was like, okay. But part of the reason it struck me the wrong way at first was because like he does his big thing and then dies, and so I was like, oh, like just on a writing standpoint, I feel like they were like, well, this character doesn't have anything left to do. It's time for him to die.
He's completed his mission.
And I was like, okay, like I don't know, I don't like
it does fit in that the stereotype now of like, if it's a gay romance, it has to be tragic, which I guess it was already tragic because they were separated for so long.
Yeah, which is why I was like, I really want to see a movie where this happens and they get back together. Yeah. Call me simple.
But you want him to break up with his wife?
No. I just want to see a movie with a similar premise where he goes, hey, I'm also just an old single guy. And they go, you want to give it another try? Because I think there's a really underserved market.
Let's write it. We got two straight guys here. Or two young straight guys. Let's write a movie about old gay men.
I think it's time. But I do think there's a seriously underserved market. I wrote about this in my notes of movies about old people because there are so many, like, whether they're coming of age movies or just, other genres, I feel like heroes are often like 18 to 30.
The key demographic.
Yeah, and I'm like even if you look at something like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, they're always, or Harry Potter, they're so young. And I'm like,
except for Gandalf and Dumbledore.
True, but
the
I mean,
old wise ones.
They're not the ones that are going through the change, except for Gandalf. And he dies and becomes Gandalf the White. But spoilers for the Fellowship of the Ring. I really liked that it was like all these old people, and they're still the main characters. They're still going through change. They're finding something out about themselves.
Them, and I was like, okay, this is a movie about them finding a lust for life again. Because I really liked. I think they did a good job in the beginning because it's a lot of like kind of slow camera movement and everything looks really kind of gross. There's like an awful shade of blue in a lot of the scenes.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they get to India, like everything's bright. It has that kind of stereotypical of like India with the like orange filter on it. Not as bad as like some movies I've seen.
Sicario.
Or like, Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth one. That was like, all right, it's India. No, he's freaking orange.
Yeah, I do love that movie, but they are very guilty of that.
Yeah, and then like the camera gets a lot more frenetic, like kind of mimicking like kind of Slumdog Millionaire style.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did it for a reason. Like, there's one character, I think it's Jean, covering her nose, and I was like, that's fucked, but it's to show that she's small-minded.
Yeah, but then they're able to separately save the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. Judi Dench and Bill Nighy get together. And the very last shot I thought was the most thrilling stunt ever put to film. Because it's in slow motion, Bill Nighy driving a moped with Judi Dench on the back. And you can tell, like, it's them actually driving. Yeah. And, like, they pass, like, Dev Patel and his girlfriend on the other moped. And it's all in slow motion. I was like, oh, my God, if that tumbled over, Judi Dench is dead.
Yeah,
like,
that's actually, I didn't even think about that. All I could think about was, I was like, how bizarre that shot was.
It was a weird...
Because I also realized, I was like, you can tell, like, how the character is assimilating to India based on, like, their wardrobe.
Yeah.
Which is also, you know, I don't know, people talk about, you know, cultural appropriation and everything, but because I feel like pretty quickly Judi Dench is starting to wear, like, the more, like, billowy kind of
like the
gowns.
Kind of specific, like, scarves. That's what they're called.
And then at the very end, when she's riding on the moped with Bill Nighy, he's also got, like, I mean, he's still just a guy in a button-up shirt, but it's more like something that Dev Patel would wear.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. But the thing that struck me as weird about it was that Bill Nighy does not make eye contact with Dev Patel. He just drives straight forward and then raises one hand.
That was so weird. He raises
like,
the opposite hand, looking completely straight ahead.
Yeah.
Which I can't blame him, because if he hits a wrong rock, him and Judi Dench are broken piles of human.
Two British treasures gone.
I could just imagine, like, if that accident happened and you hear, like, they were horribly disfigured. It's like, what happened? They let them ride a moped. It would sound like when Harrison Ford crashes another plane.
Yeah.
Like, why are they still letting him fly?
Yeah. Or the Millennium Falcon door falls on his ankle. I will say, I thought the obvious thing was to make Norman and Madge realize they were...
I was shocked that they didn't do that.
Which I thought was kind of nice. It was like, no, they're just, like... Because Madge starts to help him kind of get with this other British girl.
Yeah.
And I should say, I say girl, she's his age. It's not inappropriate.
It's not like a Jason Segel, Dakota Johnson.
Yeah, this other British old woman. And I like that she wasn't like, oh my God, like, I wish he would look at me. Like, no, she's just his wing woman.
Yeah. Which they didn't really give her. They didn't give Madge much of a resolution.
Yeah.
They're just like, yep, she's gonna keep looking for a man. I guess they like, because at the end they're like, oh, the hotel gets better, and you see a bunch more people, and she's like chatting up like an older Indian man.
Yeah, very handsome fella.
Yeah, which I thought was nice. Just a little. It was a little thing for her, but yeah, I was surprised that they didn't end up together. That would have been it felt like extremely obvious for them to do.
Yeah. I really like the moment, the last character who gets a happy ending. I seriously thought, at first I thought they were just going to let Bill Nighy and Gene go away, and they're like, not everyone gets a happy ending. But no, it worked out. But the last character who gets a happy ending is Sonny, played by Dave Patel. Dev Patel. Dev Patel and then his girlfriend Sunaina finally stand up to his mom and say, look, this is the woman I love. But before that, he has to stand up to her brother, Jay. And I thought that was a good scene because
that was nice.
Sunaina's hiding behind the stairway, and so Dev can only see Jay. And he's like, I'm here to tell her. And he's like, what are you going to tell her? And then Sunaina's like talking through her brother. She's like, ask him why he's here. Which, like, I liked, but I kind of wish... Because the joke is that Dev can hear her, but he's, like, still talking through Jay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of wish he didn't know she was there, and that way he could say, like, I'm here to say I love her, and then we can see that she hears him, but he doesn't know she hears. Because his whole thing was that he was like, I can't admit it because she deserves better than me, so if I say that to her, I'm, like, trapping her. So if he had, like, said it to Jay and was like, I need to tell her this, and she just heard it, I feel like that could have been really sweet. But... what do I know? I'm not an old British lad.
And then, because they get back together, and then they go to confront his mother, and they're like, absolutely not, cannot allow. This is an embarrassment on our family. All this stuff, and then just like another guy who works at the hotel, like an old man, and he's like, I remember another couple who said something similar, which it reminded me of in Spider-Man 3 when that butler comes out, he's like, your father had similar wounds. Like this one character that we've not focused on at all is just like, I remember.
I've never seen Spider-Man 3, but it sounds...
You've never seen Spider-Man 3?
Not all the way. I've seen like the first half. I forgot. That's one of my favorite characters was the ancient man whose name was Young Wasim. and just most of the movie just sat there and then ended up helping save the day.
So how did this match your expectations?
Well, I kind of went in with zero expectations. I feel like I knew that it was well liked. I feel like I thought it was maybe more of like
a sequel?
Yeah, I think I maybe thought it was more of like a drama, more of like an Oscar type movie. But then I was pleasantly surprised. I thought there was some like kind of cheesy stuff, but that's okay. Like it was a very sweet movie, a very fun. It made me feel like, oh, like I want to, there's wonder in the world, and I liked that about it. It was very nice. I think it's like 2 hours, so it's not too.
Yeah, it was 2 hours.
Not too long.
It flew by for me, honestly.
Yeah, same.
I liked it. But yeah, I also didn't really know what to expect. I figured it'd be more lighthearted. I figured it'd be like, oh, we're British. What is India? We're going to start a hotel here.
Yeah.
It was a very fun time. And yeah, like we talked about, like, it's not I wouldn't say it's made for us. It's made for an older crowd. But it was nice to see a movie like that.
Yeah, and it was like, I actually came to like the characters more than I thought I would. And to the point that I was like, I might need to check out the sequel.
Yeah.
I want to see what happens to them.
If we make it there, if we make it.
What is it, 2 years?
2 or 3,
something
like that. Which I was like, how good did this movie even do to get a sequel? Because it made $46 million domestically on a $10 million budget, but then internationally it made $90 million.
What? So this one or the second one?
This one.
Yeah.
So it made a grand total of $136 million
from $10 million.
From a $10 million budget.
Wow.
And yeah, I definitely see why they made a second one.
Yeah. I think I might have had a dream about this movie or something because I feel like I remember Dev Patel or someone coming out and saying the second best.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never seen the movie. I don't believe I've seen the trailer, but I feel like I've seen this image. But I will say, shout out one time. I don't know if she even listens to the show, but our friend Naomi just made a film about an old person like kind of rediscovering herself. So
I'm excited to see the finish.
Yeah, it's still happening.
Which
I mean, I meant to say films about old people are still happening.
Oh yeah, I did want to check like where this movie made a ton of money internationally. Yeah, it made over 30 million in the UK.
That makes sense.
Big. And also 21 million in Australia. So like these actors played
basically
well.
UK.
Yeah, played well in the Empire.
Places where they still know who the Queen is. Not us. I'll dump your tea in the harbor, Limey.
Amen,
Don't even think about it.
We just high five.
I've got my flintlock ready, lobster back. All our listeners are American, so it's okay.
All right. So now we're switching to this little indie darling.
Yeah.
This little indie darling. Maybe you had to search it out in some theaters.
Just barely eked out this weekend.
This little indie film, you probably haven't heard of it. It's called The Avengers.
Yeah.
Only the biggest opening weekend of all time. Mm-hmm. Jacob, what's your history with this movie?
Actually, I always have been, I find it very interesting to talk about the first Avengers and, like, the early days of the MCU because I honestly wasn't... The Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Oh, what's that?
You see, they're... I know this film kind of stands alone, but...
Yeah. Oh, did they make another?
There were about 3 or 4 leading up to this, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And several others after.
They make like 1 or 2 more.
Yeah. A few more Avengers, about 20 others.
Yeah.
But I actually, when this movie came out, I wasn't a huge MCU guy. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about like superhero movies a little bit, but like when I was growing up, and these were coming out, and like, but up until Iron Man. And even including Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, like, superhero movies to me didn't mean MCU. It was just like, this movie is about a hero, usually an origin story. Mm-hmm. Unless it was a sequel.
Spider-Man. It is
exactly.
Batman Begins.
It's X-Men. It's, Fantastic Four. Blade. I don't really count Hellboy as a superhero, but I think he's technically in that genre.
Yeah, he's an adaptation.
Yeah, and I'm a big Hellboy fan. Mm-hmm. But... So anyway, like at the time, I always try to think back and be like, how was I thinking back then? Because I remember what I thought about superhero movies and what I think now of the MCU. And I'm like, did I know? Like, did I process it as this huge event? I think I probably just thought, they made these movies and now they're making one with all of them together. Like, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what it was going to become.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if anyone did.
Yeah, but I feel like I had friends who were super into it. Like my friend Ricky, shout out, was a huge like fan of all the movies. And I literally remember the day it was coming out because we were in class together and he was like, "Oh my God, it's Avengers this weekend. I can't believe it." And I remember also like riding with my dad to school that day. I was 12, couldn't drive then. Don't shame me. But
couldn't walk uphill both ways.
But my dad was driving to school, and we used to listen to Kid Craddock in the morning, R.I.P. And is that a San Antonio thing? It might be. I don't know.
I didn't listen, but I'm familiar with the name.
But they had this kid on every once in a while who was a big Marvel fan, and so they had him on, and he was like, yeah, I went to the thing where like we watched the Hulk and Iron Man, Captain America.
Oh yeah, the
Thor,
whole marathon.
Yeah, all the way leading up. And he was like, it's really great to see them all together. But anyway, I definitely saw it that weekend. Not that weekend, but I saw it in theaters. And honestly, I don't think I thought that much of it. I was like, oh, this is a cool like action adventure movie, but it doesn't really mean that much to me. It's kind of how I feel about a lot of Marvel movies now, where I'm just like, cool, and then I move on with my life. It definitely didn't like register with me as a huge cultural event. I literally did not see it for 10 years.
Yeah, that's
I haven't seen it since the theaters.
That's not that it's been 10 years.
Yeah, for real. The thing that blows my mind is realizing that we only have like 2 or 3 years until Force Awakens is 10 years old. Because that to me was like a huge event. But anyway, I watched it again last night on Disney Plus. I think I liked it more now than I did then because I was able to like kind of look retrospectively at these characters and be like, wow, so much has changed and so much still worked back then. But yeah, I feel like you had a different experience with the Avengers growing up.
So, okay, 10 years ago, I'm trying to think where to begin. Where does this all begin? Because the Avengers and like superhero movies specifically, I remember was kind of my gateway into movies in general. Like I remember kind of one of the first Christmases that like, because like when I was a kid, like my big thing was like Legos, like like especially when I was like 10, 11.
Same, yeah.
Like, you know, for Christmas I got 1 million Lego sets, and then there was one year I wanted some. I don't know if I wanted or I ended up with getting a bunch of movies. Like I got like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I got Incredible Hulk. I got a couple other small ones, like Fantastic Four. I got that one. It was a wide swath of them. But I remember just being like, I was obsessed with that. I was obsessed with them just I think because like they were superheroes. But then it was interesting because like I didn't see the first MCU movie I saw in theaters was the first Captain America, which was right before this one. And then I watched. Oh
wow, Thor was before Captain America?
Yeah, it went Iron Man in 2008, then Iron Man 2008, and then that same year the Incredible Hulk. They kind of came out. They came out with 2, and then 2 years later they did Iron Man 2, and then the next year they did Thor and Captain America. I think Thor came out in like March, and then Captain America came out in the summer.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I remember like renting like the rest from Redbox at some point and watching I did get Iron Man that Christmas. I remember I did get that. I watched that one a lot. But yeah, like so for Captain America was the first one I had seen in theaters. And then there was something about like when I saw the trailer for this movie. I distinctly remember this trailer so well. I remember watching this movie now. I remember the lines from it. I remember obsessively watching YouTube to try to find any information I could on this. I remember do you remember there's a part in the movie where Captain America's like telling the cops what to do and then 2 aliens attack him? I remember seeing a leaked behind the scenes footage of someone from 1 million miles away with a camera getting that, and it's just him like, you know, some stuntman like walking through the points and hitting some stuntmen. Yeah. I remember like people being like, what are the aliens in this movie? And then finally someone on YouTube being like, we had from a leaked Lego set that they're called this.
I remember that.
And so I was like obsessed with this movie, and I remember seeing it. I still remember being mad at my mom because she wouldn't let me skip school the Thursday before it came out because they were at the local theater. They were doing like the whole marathon of all of them leading up to it. And I was like, Mom, I have to skip school. I did not win that argument.
Yeah.
And then I saw it that weekend. I think it was that Sunday, maybe, with a group of like 8 friends, which is very hard looking back on it because it's not like now where you can just reserve 8 seats together. You had to show up and work for those.
Yeah.
To get
and
those
when you're a
together.
kid, you have to get rides there. You can't,
There was like 2 moms that had to do it on separate deals. I think, we were unchaperoned for that maybe. Or maybe some moms came too. I don't remember. But I remember seeing it, and I remember I think when I first saw it, I had the experience of like, I had built this movie up so much in my head that watching it, I was like, okay, it was exactly what I expected. Like, I had a great time watching it. Like, the whole theater died laughing at all the right moments. But then I remember just like, we went to a pizza place after, and I was like, it was what I expected. Like, I'd been building this up in my head forever. And then I think I saw it again, like with my mom, because she was curious, because it was the biggest movie ever. And so she took me, and I remember seeing it. I'm like, okay, yes, I do. I like this a lot. I'm over like the building up my expectations too much. And then, so I'm a big MCU fan. I'm invested at this point. There is a lot right now. The Disney Plus shows are kind of pushing me in terms of how much to keep up with. But I still really like the MCU. I think what they've done is very admirable. I think they get a little too much shit just because they're the one who did it right. Yeah. And whereas all the other imitators are just trying to copy them. And looking at you, Dark Universe.
Being around so many like film people, it's kind of
especially in film school.
And people are definitely entitled to like not like it, and there are definitely some people who that's just not their bag, you know.
Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. But I get a beef out of people who still go to see them, and they're like, why do people even like this? And it's like, they keep making it because people keep seeing it. Yeah. It's something people are talking about.
That's my thing. Like, I'm always like, okay, so don't watch it if you don't like it. Like, because I am not a huge MCU guy, but I ended up going to see most of them because it was like, I wanted to hang out with my friends, and they were going to see it.
It's the big movie.
Yeah, and I didn't have a bad time or anything. Like, I enjoyed watching all of them. But, although, looking back, because you were saying you didn't see, the first one you saw was Captain America, it makes me wonder.
I had seen, like, I think the first one I actually watched ever was Iron Man 2.
Oh, wow.
Because it was at Redbox one day. And I do not remember why, but I remember being very bored by it, which holds up.
Yeah. It's okay. The best part of it is the guy with the whips.
Yeah, that one scene at the racetrack is really cool. But so I'm a big MCU fan. I probably watched it. I definitely saw it like twice in theaters. I definitely at least watched the end action scene and stuff, because that's what I do when I was young. And I own this on iTunes, I think, before. I think I pre-ordered it on iTunes. Yeah. Back in the day. But like, I would just skip to like the action scenes because, who's going to stop me? Yeah. And then last time I distinctly remember rewatching it was I rewatched the entire MCU leading up to Infinity War.
Wow.
So 2018. Yeah. 4 years ago. And I remember still being like, yes, I like this movie a lot. That was a great experience of like, because I had like a month, or I think I had planned out for like 2 months, and I pounded through all of them.
Yeah. Watching this movie kind of made me want to do that, because like I haven't seen especially the early ones, I haven't seen like since they came out. I've seen Iron Man a little more recently because my dear friend and former roommate Anthony is a huge Iron Man fan. So like we watched it.
Iron Man is really good.
Yeah. He would kill me for saying this. I think watching it again recently, I thought it was fine. But also like I think I just have slightly different tastes, because like the movie that got me in and made me go like, this is incredible, was Guardians of the Galaxy.
That one was my favorite for a long time. I think it's my favorite. That's not Endgame or Infinity War. I like those. Those are just like, they're entirely different beasts. I don't think there's anything else like those.
For real. I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
I saw, you know how many times I saw Guardians of the Galaxy in theaters?
How many?
5 times.
That's my record for the number of times I've seen a movie in theaters. Not Guardians of the Galaxy. It was Indie Darling Jojo Rabbit. But speaking of Taika Waititi, even though I worship Taika Waititi, I still think I like Guardians more than Thor Ragnarok, because I think it just has more heart.
I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's so good.
But yeah, so I guess I didn't say what I thought of it now. Watching Avengers now, it brought me right back. It brought me right back to when I was 12. I felt like there was a specific part, like when the title came up and that music blares, I was legitimately in my apartment pumping my fist, like, let's go!
Yeah. I was just going to say it was crazy to see some of the stuff, like the original Marvel logo.
Yeah, I noted that, like, it's before the fancy new one.
Yeah, and I like the old one. Yeah. Call me crazy.
I like it too.
Yeah, but the thing that really blew my mind, I guess I'm just a numbskull, was when it came up and said Paramount.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there was a time before Disney. Like, I was like, this is crazy.
Well, Disney owned them at this point.
Oh, they did?
Marvel was its own. They were on their own. They were a comic company, and they made a movie studio out of that, which is Marvel Studios. And then because they were an independent studio, basically.
Yeah.
Iron Man was a co-production with Paramount, and then I think there's a deal with Universal on the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Because I think
there was a Hulk ride at Universal Studios.
But because I think they definitely made the Ang Lee Hulk. I don't know how that all works. I don't know if Paramount was involved in the Incredible Hulk, but then 2009, Disney buys Marvel for $4 billion.
I remember that.
But then I think their deal extended until the Avengers. So like Paramount was still involved in Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and the Avengers. And then going forward after that, I don't think Paramount was involved at all.
Which makes me wonder, did Disney just know it was going to be like the biggest thing ever, and they were like, I'm willing to swing now?
They had really good leadership that saw potential. Because literally just like Iron Man had come out and they're like, yep, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
You have made nothing else besides the Hulk. and I think especially because they were trying to appeal to boys. Because Disney did not they had like Pirates of the Caribbean, but their other stuff like, Prince of Persia. I guess that hadn't come out at that point, but there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everything else was like, Hannah Montana and stuff like that. That all appealed to girls. And like I think I saw something that they make $4 billion a year just based on princess merchandise.
That's insane.
And so basically they took their earnings from 1 year to buy Marvel.
Yeah. Wow.
Should we talk about the movie?
Yeah, I know. We're just talking about Marvel.
Yeah. It's nuts because it's the biggest thing ever now. And which I think, it makes it a very easy target for people.
Yeah, and people are like, and that's the crazy thing. I will say, not to be a Debbie Downer, but as much as, because I'm not one of these guys that goes, oh my God, I hate Marvel. It's all the same, whatever. Like, I just know that it's not my favorite thing ever, but I will go see them. Like, usually because my friends go, or a friend of mine goes, do you want to go see this? Like, same with, like, weirder ones, like Eternals, where I had, like, really no interest in seeing it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine went, do you want to go see this? And I ended up having a good time.
Yeah. Eternals is fine.
Yeah. I like a few of the characters in it a lot.
And there are 500 others.
So I'm not going to, like, tear it down or anything. And I think what they've done, like you said, is really impressive, to the point that even me, someone who's not a huge MCU guy, was crying in Endgame because I was like, this is just, like,
oh my God,
spectacle at its highest.
I have friends that can attest. I was bawling, crying in Endgame.
At the end, when they all come in, I was like, this is incredible.
I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Yeah. I'm going to get so roasted alive for this. There are people with pitchforks outside of the studio right now.
But
all the film students.
All that being said, I will say that there are a lot of people on Twitter and stuff who will complain about, like, the state of cinema, and it's like, whatever. Because I saw a lot of people online being like, I'm a film school professor, and kids these days, they just want to make superhero movies. They don't care about anything else. And I'm like, that's not true.
No.
Like, I mean,
that's
maybe it's true at your film school in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, or it's like, maybe it's true if you're just, like, talking to a regular class, like, oh, what movies have you seen? And it's like, I saw Spider-Man.
Yeah. But I'm like, I haven't met anyone who's like, my dream is to make Spider-Man 4. And like, but anyway, what I will say there is some credence to is everyone gave Martin Scorsese shit because he said the thing about superhero movies being amusement park rides.
Yeah.
And I think that was misunderstood. Like, because I think he wasn't saying, oh, they're bad. He might have been saying they're not for me. But I think what he was saying, which should be listened to, is that if we only give our money to Venom and Morbius, then we will lose out on Everything Everywhere All at Once and the Northmen. Yeah. And it's like, so it's important, as much as we love the Avengers and superheroes, to go see if they interest you, don't obviously. It's stupid to be like, go pay money to see something you don't want to see. But if you have even an inkling of interest in these other movies, go see them because we don't want the mid-range budget to die.
Well, because then my thing is always, it's like, oh, Hollywood only wants to make superhero movies. Hollywood doesn't care at all what they're making.
Yeah.
Hollywood is so reactionary that it's like, superhero movies, team up movies, they're big. We need to everyone's like, all right, dig up whoever we can buy, whoever we can put out. We'll do anything. We'll do Morbius.
Yeah. We'll do Magnificent Seven because there's a team in it.
Oh God! An executive pitch. Okay, what if we make a movie for each of the 7 and then build up to the big team up? But
oh my God.
Yeah, it's because like the big thing is the audiences. People vote with their dollars what they want to see. They vote with the tickets that they buy, and so it's a thing. If a movie like The Northman doesn't do great, they're not going to put their money into a movie similar to that. But if Avengers comes out and makes $200 million opening weekend, everyone's going to be like, okay, we want that. We want that. We want to chase that success. Because there are so many movies that come out that are really good or really interesting or try something that just no one sees. And then people wonder, why did this movie do it? Why aren't there original movies? That's always the question of, Hollywood doesn't make original movies. They do. People don't see them.
Yeah. That's why I mean, I know I'm just one person, and I know you're similar, but I'm like, I'll go see stuff just because it's different.
I'll see anything.
Yeah. I'm like, especially now I'm a little more busy and have a harder time. But like freshman year, sophomore year, I was like going to see everything. Yeah. I was like, the real world of money hasn't hit me yet. I'm gonna go see Gloria Bell.
You're gonna love like a AMC, the Movie Pass replacements. I had Movie Pass. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was so good. The glory days until it crashed and burned.
It's also weird. This is neither here nor there, but it's weirdly easier for me to like go out to the theaters and see something than it is for me to justify like just sitting at home and watching something. Because I feel like if I'm at home, I'm like, well, I've got work I should be doing.
This other stuff. Yeah. I could be doing this stuff while watching the movie, maybe.
But if I go, I'm going out to the movies.
It's so fun. It's such a fun event.
Yeah, and you go, nothing else can bother me. I turn my phone off. Anyway,
I think people play. I think the MCU is a very easy target. I think they do get a little homogenized, especially as you've kind of gone on. But I think they are not, the villain of everything. They're still fun movies. They give me a great time most every time. Yeah. And I think, if you want original movies, go see original movies. Yeah. And more will be made. It
is interesting. Yeah, and go see Northman so that when in 10 years, they'll let me make the historical epic I want to make. It was interesting to see, because I haven't watched a lot of this Phase 1 stuff in a long time, to see how, because in my mind, it's not that different, but now watching it, I'm like, oh, wow, the Disney era is different. Yeah. It's, more colorful, and not colorful, but, the way that things have definitely found a look now.
Yeah. I think definitely the CGI. I think we talked about this in an earlier episode about how CGI is a lot more noticeable now.
Yeah, for some reason.
Everything seems a little more waxy.
Yeah, glossy. I look at the cave troll in Lord of the Rings that came out in 2001, and it still looks real to me compared to stuff that comes out today.
Well, because even I would say the special effects here are kind of flawless. Yeah. I don't know if there's maybe a few shots that look kind of whack, a few green screen stuff. But compared to stuff I think I remember starting around Civil War, which I think I really love that movie, but there's some stuff where there's one shot with Iron Man where he's talking and you can tell basically every single thing is digital besides Robert Downey Jr.'s head.
Yeah. Well, I actually wanted to ask you, is the Iron Man suit real in this movie?
I believe so. I know for a fact for the first one they built a lot of Iron Man suits, a lot of ones, especially that the Mark I that he does. That was a real Hulk thing that they had to march through. But because there's some shots here where I'm like, that's gotta be a real suit.
Yeah, there's a part where I think he's it's after Thor kicks his ass and he's getting up from.
It looks so real. Yeah, because I was like, that can't be a CGI shot, because the way the camera's moving. Yeah. It did not look CGI.
And the way he's interacting with stuff and the joints of his armor are moving, it looks so real.
Yeah, that I think is the biggest. I think after this movie, the Iron Man suits get infinitely worse. Yeah, they infinitely really less interesting. Yeah, they still get Like I in Infinity War, I think it works well for that movie, like the nanotech armor. I think they do a lot of interesting stuff with it, but it looks so computer generated.
Yeah,
whereas
for
this
real.
one, that suit looks like you could touch it.
Yeah, and they start to do more and more complicated things with it, which I get. Like you have to up the ante, but it really, I miss when it was a little chunkier.
Yeah, I did. I was looking through the IMDb trivia, and there was a thing. Which this is a Joss Whedon film, second film that we've covered. This one,
4 episodes.
Second he's written that we've covered, but first we've covered that he's directed, and he did mention that he hated Iron Man's kind of Tinkerbell pose that he does, where he's like holds his hand, like he's having his hands propel him, and so that's why Iron Man has kind of a jetpack on his back in this one, which I think looks a lot better. And they said that's why he has more of like a cowboy stance when he's in the air.
Oh
which
yeah.
I think, especially like when he puts the second suit on and confronts Loki.
Yeah.
He has kind of that stance.
Interesting. I never noticed that. It was very interesting to see all my old friends. It was like kind of refreshing to be like, oh, there's not a million Avengers. There's just these
there's
5. Yeah.
5 or 6.
Let's name them. Hulk, Captain America,
Iron Man,
Thor,
Black Widow, and
Hawkeye.
Hulk.
So 6.
Hawkeye, yeah.
But yeah, speaking of, I feel like when this movie came out, everyone in 7th grade talking about who's your favorite Avenger.
Who's your favorite Avenger? What was yours? Who was your
Back
your
then,
guy?
mine was Thor, which I feel like tracks for me, like fantasy.
Yeah.
You know,
A god
fights with a hammer and lightning. It's badass. And don't get me wrong, he's still badass. But with my sensibilities now, I really like Thor now that he's like funny. Like watching him when he was so proper and like almost Shakespearean.
He has gone through the most radical change throughout this series.
So different. Like he still has a couple jokes, but they're more like tough guy jokes.
Yeah.
Where he's
they
like,
definitely realized they're just like, wait, Chris Hemsworth is hilarious.
Yeah. And something I recently just watched a video. Like I said, I really love Taika Waititi. I watched a video where he's in a kind of a blockbuster, but it's in France. I don't know what they call it. He's just going through movies and talking about why he likes them and how they've inspired him. And I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. He pulled out Big Trouble in Little China and said that Jack Burton, as portrayed by Kurt Russell, was a big influence for Thor. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I really love Thor now. Very excited for Thor. My favorite this time watching it, now that I'm older, I really like Cap now. Like, I like that he's... I think I just like heroes that are just honorable. Yeah. And I liked that. At first, he started to lose me because he was like being a little too goody two shoes, and I was like, Cap, you don't just have to follow orders. But then he went against the status quo and he dug up the Hydra weapons, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. I think my favorite back then was Iron Man. I want to say Iron Man is a cool one. Yeah. I remember Captain America. I think right after this movie in Winter Soldier is when Captain America really started to work for me. I think by the time you get to Civil War, he's my favorite. Yeah. And like, oh God, the end of Endgame. Where he ends,
I agree with just thinking about it.
Destroys me. Yeah. I love, and when I rewatched all of the movies before Infinity War, the one that had the most kind of radical like improvement on rewatch was the first Captain America. That movie, I think, knows so wholeheartedly what it is, and it's so, like, Captain America has not really changed. Like, it's not like Thor, where they kind of figured it out. They kind of reworked it. Captain America in the first one is so, it's like, he's so honorable, but in a way that's still interesting. He's presented with so much that has to work around his morals. Yeah. And, yeah, I agree with you, like, I have seen people who are just like, oh, he's boring. Like, he just does the right thing. And it's like, but there's something compelling when no one else is committed to that.
That's what I think, like, I really like. I mean, there's characters like Paddington who are like, you know, who are just good. But they're not in worlds where they're jeopardized a lot, you know? But I feel like I love characters.
Except for Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant.
Jon Snow or Aragorn. Like, they're these characters that are up against insane odds, but they still are like, I can do what's right.
Yeah. I do think he gets a little short shrifted in this one. Mainly 2 things. The costume. The costume looks like pajamas.
I kind of like it. I like how colorful it is.
Yeah. I think they didn't really figure... I love the costume in the first one, but they didn't really figure out how to get like the modern one until Civil War, I'll say.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like the second one, he has like a spy one, and then he puts on the old one from the first movie. But yeah, this one, it's just like it looks really weird on the head. Like it just has like I remember as a kid being like, this looks weird.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a Halloween costume.
Weird, colorful boots.
Yeah. Is it in the first movie he has more like brown on him, right? And he has like kind of a helmet.
Yeah, he has like bandoliers and stuff. Yeah, it's much more of a helmet. It's very much like I remember Captain America always sounded like a dumb superhero. It's like, what? He has a shield? Who cares?
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing the trailer for the first Captain America movie, and then you see him like kick open a barn door, and he has the outfit, and he's wielding a pistol, and I was like, oh my god, Captain America's packing.
Yeah. No, it's sweet.
Oh, and then this one he uses a gun too, like when they're repairing the engine.
Oh yeah,
and I was laughing at that. I was like, oh yeah, I guess he is an experienced marksman.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting too. His like relationship with Iron Man.
Yeah, you can see right here they're already building to what?
It's a civil war.
Well, I guess they're not really building to it. It's just that conflict is innately in that relationship.
Which, going back to Kid Craddock in the morning, I remember that kid saying on that which is strange that I remember this radio show so well 10 years later. But he was saying oh, they were asking like, okay, what did you think of Avengers? Because he had seen it like the night before or whatever. And he was like, yeah, it's really interesting how they do like the kind of who's going to be the leader, Iron Man or Cap.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he's right. Like, it is interesting. I will say, maybe controversially, that I do think Iron Man is a cool character, and I really like him, and Robert Downey Jr. is very charming. But there were a lot of times where I was kind of siding with Cap. I was like, hey, man, he's just being a prick. Even though I think when Civil War came out, I told everyone I was Team Iron Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was Team Cap all the way. I got screaming matches over this stuff.
We'll see. A couple years we'll get to
God. If we do that, we're going to need to get a poster of us fighting.
One night only.
So Captain America, I think he gets a little short-shifted by the costume mainly. But also, did you notice Chris Evans's wig?
I didn't really, but I did know that like there was a whole thing about him having long hair and then cutting it for Ragnarok.
No, not Chris Hemsworth. Chris Evans.
Oh no! I did not at all realize it.
No, yeah, he has basically like, not like he has like almost a shaved head, kind of like it was super short, and then he has basically just like a toupee on like a blonde toupee on top of it, and when you notice it, it's really noticeable. And I remember that some people talking about that when it came out of just like, oh, like people aren't like super connected to Captain America. Like his movie did kind of the worst out of like all of them. Like it did fine, but which also can contribute to like it's called Captain America. It's not going to do amazing internationally. But there was something about like, oh, it's Chris Evans even like it. He wasn't even willing wasn't even willing to get his hair right for the role and stuff. Yeah. I don't know why. He probably had like another.
Yeah.
He may have had another movie, but this was probably long enough. Like this movie was filming for long enough. But yeah, when you notice it, it's really noticeable.
Damn. I will say on the subject of Captain America's hair, I did notice, or rather, I was watching it with my other roommate, not Blake, but my roommate Jet, and at the end in the famous shawarma scene, Captain America's sitting with like his kind of face in his hand.
I do know why.
Yeah, and he said he was growing a beard or something and had to cover it
for Snowpiercer.
Oh wow, that does not feel like it came out that long ago.
That because I have heard that story, and it's because that end credit scene, they literally shot that scene after the premiere. They had the premiere for the movie, which Marvel movies they usually have like their premiere like way in advance. Like I feel like the Civil War one was like 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
But they had the scene, and then Robert Downey Jr. I think went up to like them and was like, "What if we had this scene? Like this would be fun." Like it was because they had the shawarma mention in the movie, and then they're like, "What if we just do this?" And Chris Evans had the beard that he was growing out for Snowpiercer, and so they put a prosthetic jaw on him, and that's why he's also not eating in the scene, and he just has his beard covering his face, because I think someone said without the fist covering it looked like he had been attacked by a swarm of bees.
Yeah, I kept trying to figure out other things about it, because I was like, okay, Hawkeye's not really looking at us, so maybe something was with him. Like,
it's such a. I did not see that scene. I saw the first end credit scene in theaters, and I definitely thought I knew what happened, and I did not. I thought that was Red Skull the first time seeing it.
Thanos.
seeing Thanos, I thought that it was Red Skull.
Oh,
because I was like, oh, I just saw him in the last movie, and he vanished into space. Didn't look like he died. I was like, oh, Red Skull. In the time since, he's now like intergalactic conqueror. And then people were like, no, it's Thanos. And I said, who?
Yeah, that's how it always goes with these movies. People are like, oh, did you know that in Eternals when Hooba Stank and Humpty Dump show up at the end? I go, no,
God.
I didn't.
Schlimishlam and Commandant. Oh my God, it's Cum Shot. I can't believe they brought him into a movie. My favorite character.
It's Hula Hoop and Ragdoll, and they're back for Avengers 5.
Oh my God, this is gonna be so big in Black Widow 2. I know it.
Oh man.
I want to jump back to the beginning because I had forgotten how this movie starts, where it's just like, I think it's a good start of like, okay, you're with Nick Fury, going in, you get S.H.I.E.L.D., and they got to introduce Hawkeye because he had a small cameo in Thor.
Yeah, I feel like you barely see him.
Yeah, you see him for like a shot, or you see his face for like one shot. How'd you feel about how Hawkeye becomes a villain for a lot of the movie?
I remember that happened, like, because I remember people like joking about it, like, oh, he was a villain for the first Avengers. I did not realize it happened so fast. Yeah. It's like the first thing, like,
the first scene.
Yeah, which like I was like, I mean, I feel kind of bad for Jeremy Renner. That I mean, I don't know, isn't he canceled? I don't know, but
I don't know. I like Jeremy Renner as an actor.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about his personal life.
But
I know the Jeremy Renner app.
Yeah, gotta get on that.
Yeah, gotta get on that shit.
But I felt kind of bad that I was like, oh, that's the team-up movie, and he doesn't really get to be part of the team until the end. But, I mean, I think it's fine story-wise.
I think it gives him, like, because Black Widow had also, like, she was in Iron Man 2. She had a bigger role in that. She at least got, like, a whole action scene in that one. But this one did feel like, okay, we need to introduce the audience to him. Like, it'd be weird if he's just, like, part of the team, kind of. And it also gives Black Widow a good amount of motivation.
Yeah, I like that
to do everything.
I liked that they were kind of homies because of their similar pasts. But yeah, I liked that. It is kind of funny, like, because I remember at the time everyone being like, oh my God, how is he an Avenger? He just has a bow and arrow. And then watching this movie, it is kind of like, I mean, like, I feel like
he's really good with that bow and arrow.
I feel like he has like 4 confirmed kills in this movie.
He kills like 12 guys.
Yeah.
And who else was going to do it? I didn't see anyone else.
That's true. And also, I mean, Black Widow is not far from that with like a gun.
She has 2 very tiny guns. And I was like, she cannot carry that much ammunition on her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it works fine for this one. I like Hawkeye a lot going forward.
There is the scene where he runs out of arrows. I feel like everyone joked about that, and it really happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think he gets more interesting going on. I never watched his standalone show, but I hear
I liked it.
I hear it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the comic it's based on a lot. It was better than the show. The show was good. I thought he was good in it.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting because I think the first person we see Coulson at the start of the movie standing there looking stoic as the helicopter lands, but then we're introduced to Maria Hill.
Is she in any of the others before this?
Not before this. This is her first.
Okay.
But this is another connection to a movie we watched last week. Because she's played by Kobe Smulders.
Great name.
Most known as a role as Robin on How I Met Your Mother. Also starring Jason Segel.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And then she went on to do the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, I think.
She was not on. She was on, like, the pilot.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought she was, like, the hero of that.
Coulson is the hero of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Fun fact. Oh, go ahead.
Which is interesting considering what happens to him in this movie.
Wait, yeah, what? Is it back in time?
No.
He comes back?
He's a robot.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
They made him a cyborg or something. I watched the first like 3 episodes. Yeah.
Okay. He is actually a surprisingly big part of this movie because he becomes their rallying call is we feel bad that Coulson died. Fun fact, I forget the actor's name, but I have met the actor who played Phil Coulson.
You've met Clark Gregg?
I have. Not like
Mr. Popper's Penguin's own Clark Gregg.
He was at San Antonio Comic-Con for some reason, and me and Javi stood in line to meet him. And so Comic-Con is very cool, but it does always feel a little weird when you have to like pay to like
get,
meet
like,
someone.
an autograph or something.
Feels a little weird, but you know,
that's how they make
Coulson's
money.
got to make his money.
Yeah.
Comic-Con's got to make his money. But anyway, they give you, like, before you get to Coulson, they give you a card to write down like your name and stuff so that he can spell it, and that way he doesn't have to ask you like, oh, how do you spell it? He can just like talk to you while he writes, you know.
Oh, that's nice.
To Javi, thanks for being an Avenger. but Javi,
I avenge you.
They let you write whatever you want on that card, and Javi was like, I'm gonna see what he'll write. But Javi wrote on his card, to Javi, my one and only, Clark Gregg or whatever his name is, and so when we get up there, he's like, oh hey, like nice to meet you, like thanks so much for coming out. He looks down at the card and you can see him go like, and then he wrote it. It's a Javi has this thing that says my one and only, signed Phil Coulson or whoever.
Yeah, I was surprised watching this because I mean he hasn't been in a movie since this. But I thought he's really good in these movies.
Yeah.
And it really works for him as kind of, you know, the thing that really rallies them into the third act.
I hope he's still collecting residuals.
Oh yeah, I hope so.
For all those Coulson figures.
Because I mean he's in Iron Man 1 and 2, he's in Thor, and
Captain Marvel. He came back.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's in that. I did forget he's in that one.
With a de-aged Sam
Jackson.
Yeah.
Which Sam Jackson is also, he's not, this seems like a role that an actor like him could just sleepwalk through. I thought he's great in this movie.
Yeah, he does a great job. And in some ways, like, at the beginning, he feels like kind of the main, like, rudder of, like, he feels like the kind of, like, center point.
Yeah.
Because everything's happening around him. I also thought it was really interesting that there's, like, a whole subplot where, that I did not remember, where everyone is like, at least because I feel like Hawkeye and Black Widow are more like SHIELD agents. They're on the SHIELD side. But like there's a whole subplot where Cap, Iron Man, and Hulk are being like, hey, isn't it weird that like we're here? And they start to like doubt Nick Fury, which I thought was really cool.
That argument scene they have is really great.
Yeah.
It's so, because like everyone has their own distinct kind of point of view and they all get a moment to kind of get their hits on each other.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, too, because that was what I was going to say. Besides Cap, my favorite this time around was actually Bruce Banner.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I wanted to ask, because were you an Edward Norton fan?
No, I've seen a lot of the MCU now, but I've never seen the Ed Norton one. I've seen maybe, like, an action scene from it. But, yeah, because in Hulk, Edward Norton, who's his love interest?
Blake Lively? No, not Blake Lively.
Ryan Reynolds' wife?
No, it is the girl from Armageddon. Liv Tyler.
Oh, yeah. From Armageddon. As if she's not Arwen, the daughter of Elrond half-elven. She says, I would rather spend one lifetime with you than face all the ages of this world alone.
How could I forget?
I choose a mortal life. You saw my future. You saw a son. I looked into your future and I saw only death, Arwen. There is hope there too. Do I not have your love? You have my love, Father.
See, this is why you need to like, share, subscribe, everything, so that way we definitely make it to the Hobbit episode.
I know. When I realized it was coming, I was like, "Oh my god!"
I know. Oh my god, we need to do just that one. That's gonna be its own episode. I want to give a shout out because Kevin Feige gets all the credit in the world, which he deserves. He's a king.
Yeah.
Kingmaker.
King shit.
But I would like to give just a little shout out to someone who doesn't get enough credit. Her name is Sarah Haley Finn. She's been the casting director for every MCU movie.
Oh my god.
And which I imagine it's just like her department and an army of assistants. But like, think about how well cast this movie is.
For real.
Down to every single person. And like she got Robert Downey Jr., Sam Jackson, they found Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Chris Evans, like all these people, and then like has still found like everyone up until like, Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Literally everyone.
Gilgamesh in Eternals was one of my favorites.
Oh,
His Korean actor Don Lee was amazing.
But you know what notably is the one movie she wasn't the casting director for?
Very notable recasting. Hulk?
Yeah, she did not do the Incredible Hulk. She did not. She was not responsible for Ed Norton.
Yeah, because I think Mark Ruffalo is a great Bruce Banner.
Yeah, he's so different than Ed Norton, which also, because for a while there was kind of like, is the Incredible Hulk canon, or is this just a different one?
For the longest time, I didn't think it was, and then people told me like years later, oh yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, cool, because now I guess in this one they do mention like, oh, last time when I was in Harlem, because that's where the big fight scene takes place. And then they bring back like William Hurt from that movie into Civil War. But yeah, what do you think? What are your thoughts on Loki?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Loki. Because, because I feel like he's an interesting character. I feel like, all right, breaking new ground here. My definitive ranking of the Avengers villains, definitely Thanos is the best villain.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then I think Loki, and then Ultron.
I definitely agree.
Which I feel like most people would agree with. I haven't seen Ultron, I think, also since the theaters.
Yeah.
So we'll get there maybe.
Ultron is weird.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
It's kind of a mess.
Yeah. But I think Loki is a good villain. It's just weird because I feel like when you have a movie like this, part of me wants them to like soundly defeat the enemy.
Yeah.
But because, he goes on to be a focal point of the movies for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like they can't kill Loki.
They've tried.
Yeah.
Oh, they've tried.
It's kind of interesting in that way that it's like he's the big bad of this movie, and then he kind of goes on to have his heyday more in other movies.
It's so interesting because he's in Thor, and I think most people agree like, oh, he was a good villain, but then when it got to Avengers, that's when he really kind of popped. I think like Tumblr girls really responded to Loki, and that kind of response kind of brought on like, well, he's got to be in Thor. He's got to be a major part of Thor 2 because people loved him in Avengers, and then that kind of brought on like him having like his own redemption.
Well, yeah, he becomes sort of kind of a Fast and the Furious villain where he starts to become part of the family.
He really does. But in the beginning of Infinity War, when Thanos just chokes him out dead there, and because like that's him saying like, oh, the villain of the first movie. You're dead.
This ain't your mama's Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which also, I mean, at the beginning of that, he finally gets the Tesseract. That's, the focal point of much of the MCU from the beginning, and then just crushes it in his hand.
Yeah.
And gets the stone.
Right. Wow, I haven't seen that movie. Basically, I haven't seen any of the Avengers more than once except Endgame.
I feel like we're talking a lot about stuff that happens later on.
Yeah. But I mean, how can you not,
But yeah, it is funny that Loki, like when he first shows up in this movie, he murders like 5 people very brutally.
Yeah.
And then like, because now you haven't seen the Loki show.
I've seen the very first episode.
Yeah, but because like with the way the time travel works with Endgame, where they travel back to the end of the Avengers, and then that Loki transports off.
So the Loki in the show is the old Loki.
Yes,
okay.
He's a variant of Loki from the Avengers. Loki from the very end of the Avengers, minutes after getting smashed by the Hulk. Yeah, and then he gets teleported, and then what? Because then it's like, oh, so this is a Loki that hasn't had character development. And has literally just I think they say he murdered 80 people in 2 days. Yeah. But then their way around that in the show is they show him literally like he watches like a slideshow of everything that happened that he missed. And it's like, okay, he's developed that character development in that time.
Okay.
Which works fine for the show. But it is funny how in this one, he is very much a villain.
Yeah. I did it was kind of interesting because I feel like, so before this, we've only known him from Thor, and
which he technically dies at the end of, not really, whichever.
Which I also haven't seen in a really long time. But like, I feel like after this, especially in Ragnarok, they have a very the relationship is always Loki fucks him over, and he still believes in him. And so even in this movie, he goes, "Are you ever not gonna fall for that?" And I'm like, have we had that many interactions yet? I feel like now you can say that.
That happens a couple times, I remember, in the first Thor. Yeah. That happens a couple times where it's like the duplicate. Yeah. Into him.
Also, the scene where Loki first gets the Tesseract, or tries to, and is talking to Sam Jackson and friends. Yeah. There's a really strange part where, I mean, I think this was the only kind of awkward moment in the movie for me, but there was literally a part where he's brainwashing people with the staff, and they cut over to Sam Jackson, and he's just like, I'm just gonna walk away.
Yeah.
And he's just casually walking away.
I like that.
And
He's
Loki's
all
like,
right,
hey, wait a minute. I was like,
Uh,
what's happening? Why are they just standing in the same room?
I do love the line that Loki has in there where it's like, an ant has no quarrel with a boot.
Yeah. I was gonna say there were some moments where I didn't know how well the like humor held up, but there were a couple really good lines in there. Funny or otherwise.
Which I get that's the Joss Whedon of it all.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, which we talked about in the Cabin in the Woods episode. Does not seem like a great guy, but at least it seems like with this movie he made a lot of the right decisions.
Yeah. And I think that's what people talk about when they're like, oh, this is the Whedon-esque writing, is like there are some really funny things, you know, like the shawarma is still funny, and like,
which that was apparently improv by Robert Downey. The line was improv by Robert Downey Jr. Is what I read.
But there are some lines that I thought, like, I was like, oh boy, like the one I think that was the most egregious to me was when I think Iron Man he's flying and the big monster's behind him, and he's like, I'm bringing the party, and Black Widow goes, how is that a party?
That was
and I was like, oh,
I don't see how that's a party.
Yeah,
like she doesn't sound like she's like making a joke at it. She sounds more like genuinely confused. The awkward line that I have, which I think is in performance, is when they're fixing the helicarrier and Cap is trying to help him, and they're like, what, already the relay's wrong, and he's like, it seems to be running on some form of electricity.
Yeah.
He's like, but then I do like Iron Man's response, like, well, you're not wrong.
I did like I love I feel like they do it less as the series goes on, but like the jokes that Captain America has missed so much of pop culture. Yeah. Like when someone says flying monkeys, he's like, I get that one.
I get that one.
This is from like 38 or whatever.
Yeah, from 1939.
Yeah.
He was there. He saw it. You never saw Falcon the Winter Soldier, right?
Nope.
There was a part where where Winter Soldier references Gandalf or something, and he's like, you read The Hobbit? And he's like, yeah, when it was printed in 1938.
That whole council was weird too.
Yeah.
Like when they came out, my roommate was like, you remember these guys? And I was like, literally not at all.
They show up and then get killed off in Winter Soldier.
Oh, that does sound kind of familiar.
Yeah, they get killed by Robert Redford.
Yeah. Is he a good guy? I thought Robert Redford was a good guy.
Well, you're gonna be for a real shock when that when we get to that one. But I do think it's funny. I guess jumping forward and looking at like Captain America Civil War, when they're like, oh, the Avengers need to be held accountable. Look, and I remember the death counts are like super low. Like they're like, 70 people died in the Battle of New York.
That's like,
and
no
it's like,
way.
Oh, did you forget the part where the government decided to fire a nuclear missile at the island of Manhattan?
Yeah.
That was going to be 8 million people on that counter.
At the same time, though, I was like, I think they have one line where, or no, it's not one line, but it's the part where Captain America tells the cop to get people underground. And I'm like, okay, that's how they're kind of explaining that people aren't just dying in the thousands. But at the same time, I was like, there's all these huge business skyscrapers, corporate buildings.
So many people.
I'm like, there's no way that this is not, you know,
this would
another
be
9/11.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about that. I was like, this is, especially when the aliens first kind of come in and you see a lot of cars blowing up and people running for their lives, like, you know, is this kind of playing on 9/11 imagery? Kind of. You said in New York you're going to get that. But
and you got big flying monsters.
Yeah. I did think it was an interesting, like 9/11 happened, the big flying monster.
Yeah, it's called the 747 airliner. Whatever. I will say, as a connoisseur of movies with giant battles in them, namely medieval movies, I thought the Chitauri were fine enemies, but I feel like they're kind of just messes of colors and arms and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't think the movies ever particularly got a handle on, because I feel like the things in Infinity War are kind of the same. Their big flying monsters are very iconic.
Yeah. And I do say, though, that because this movie came out a year after the motion picture Transformers Dark of the Moon.
Okay.
And it is very similar to the final battle in that one.
Yes.
Because it's in a big major city. That one's in Chicago. But down to, they have giant flying ships that people, drop out of. They have these giant drop ships, which they kind of have with the giant slugs or whatever you call it, the giant serpents, armored serpents. So I remember being a kid and being like, this does look a little similar to the best movie ever, Transformers 3.
I don't think I've seen Transformers 3, but I did write down. I was like, this was the era of movies where in the third act a portal opens up in the sky.
Oh yeah, and they never got rid of it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think Thor 2 also did that.
Yeah. Ghostbusters
big
2016.
sky beam in the sky.
I thought there were a couple moments where I was like, is this foreshadowing or is it just
Did it work out that way?
Did it just work out that way? And one of them was Iron Man almost dying. I was like,
yeah,
they know?
Well, I think the way it works is that makes logical sense with what's set up in this movie of like, because Cap sets up, are you the man who will lay down a wire for your man? And so like that makes sense for this movie, and then it makes sense on a larger scale for what happens with his character. Because because I think also like people say like, oh, they knew it when he said I am Iron Man in the beginning. It's like, no, they didn't. That's how it worked out.
Yeah,
like, and that makes sense.
Yeah, that's more of a reactionary thing where when you're writing his death scene, then you can write I am Iron Man.
Yeah, and yeah, because I was thinking like, oh, this is parallels to what happens with him eventually. But that's also part of his character development as a whole.
Yeah. I did think all the stuff was really interesting about because now we've been in like the cosmic age of the Avengers for so long that it's like when they're like, why are you making weapons? And he's like, because a year ago a god came here. I was like, no, that's facts.
That's very true.
Yeah.
An Asgardian suit of armor came in and shot fire out of its face.
And he's like, we're hilariously outgunned. I thought that was really cool. I always like stuff about like the triumph of like the underdog and like the human spirit, and it's like that they're against these like aliens from another world with way more advanced technology, but it's like even the guy like Thanos' like henchman who's like he's like
I think he's known as the Other.
Yeah, he was like the humans aren't as weak as we thought. I'm like, yeah, you're damn right.
Yeah, I was laughing because there's a part like when he talks with Loki, like they have like the Skype call with that, and I noticed he had 6 fingers. Oh yeah, on one hand.
That guy's like funny. 2 thumbs.
That guy like they kill because they kill him in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
Ronan snaps his neck.
Yeah, I also we'll get there, but like the Guardians of the Galaxy I thought was interesting because it's like this very strange outlier movie at first, but it also is the one that features like the most Thanos.
Yeah,
until he shows up.
Well, because also it has like Gamora, which is his daughter and stuff. I was wondering because I was like, when Loki shows up, I was like, why can't they just send the whole army in? But that was like, oh, I guess they were only able to open it slightly.
Oh yeah.
But then I was like, why didn't they send Gamora? But then I guess they'd say Loki like has knowledge of the cube.
She was off doing other stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that Alexander Skarsgård was in this movie because
Stellan.
Oh yeah. I always get them mixed up. But
a Northman brain.
Because I feel like there's a proud tradition of MCU movies having random cameos, but like
small roles by great actors.
And so I was like, oh wow, even in the beginning we had Skarsgård.
Well, because he was in he was in Thor with Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
he was with her crew, and then it makes sense to have him in because then it gives Thor stakes in it, and it makes sense that he would be the one to, know what they're doing. But yeah, so what'd you think? Oh, I do have to ask, what'd you think of the Germany scene? When Loki also shows up and rips a guy's eyeball out?
Okay, I thought that was kind of badass because it reminded me of other superhero movies pre-MCU where they were like a little grosser.
Yeah.
And so I was like, cool. Like in a very similar scene happens in Hellboy 2, which I think was 2007 or 2008, where literally in like a museum in like I think it's in New York, but they filmed in Europe, but the bad guy releases this device that like sucks onto somebody's eye, and but I was like, oh well, this is cool, and I like that they have this weird technology where he has to scan someone's eye so that Hawkeye can have it over here.
Who developed that technology?
I know. When did they need that ever?
For this exact moment.
I know. What other reason would you have that? But I thought like the kind of like references to Hitler were a little weird, but
yeah, it's like there's always another Hitler, a guy wearing a reindeer helmet that came from space.
I really liked him. I was like when everyone was kneeling and one old dude stood up, I was like, this is cool.
Yeah, it's a cool little moment. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look to your elder
Yeah.
He shall be your example.
I definitely thought the Cap saving him surprise was actually a surprise to me. I thought he was gonna get iced right then and there.
But yeah, because then Cap gets that. Last time I was in Germany and saw a man standing over everyone.
Yeah.
Things didn't go so well for him.
Uh-huh. I thought there were a couple, like, that was an interesting Cap line. Another one that I liked, though, that I had forgotten about was when Black Widow goes, these guys are from a legend. They're basically gods. And he's like, there's only one god, ma'am.
And he doesn't dress like that.
That's so funny.
Which I was then like, just throughout these movies, I don't know, does Cap stay Christian?
Yeah, it's actually a good question.
He's literally fights a mad titan.
Yeah.
And then it's like, is he still believing in God after half the universe vanishes? What are your thoughts on? Because especially when this movie came out, there was a lot of talk about like, no one knows how to write women like Joss Whedon.
Oh, really?
For a year, well, because also like with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, people were saying that stuff. I think with this one, because especially looking at Black Widow from Iron Man 2 to this, she is a walking sex object in Iron Man 2, and Scarlett Johansson is very wooden in that movie, which is not, it doesn't seem like her fault. It seems like what they wanted out of her.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, like, before this, I think that was probably the first time I'd seen Scarlett Johansson. But, like, before that, she had like, real roles.
Yeah,
and
Lost
after
in
that,
Translation.
Yeah, that one Coen Brothers movie that she has a small part in. I can't remember what it's called. It's like The Man Who Knew Everything or something.
The Man Who Knew Too Much?
Isn't that the Hitchcock one?
The Man Who Wasn't There.
Yeah. And but fun fact, I rented that movie, watched half of it, and then my rental expired, and I still have never seen the second half. And then definitely after this, she's had all kinds of like real
Under
roles.
the Skin.
Yeah, Marriage Story.
Yeah. Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, Jojo Rabbit. It's so interesting to look back and be like, I remember being a kid watching Iron Man 2 being like, this is just someone. Like, I was like, I don't know who this is.
A woman.
Yeah.
Well, you know who it was originally going to be, right?
Bryce Dallas Howard.
No, it was Emily Blunt.
Oh.
Again, tying back to the 5-year engagement.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, she had to drop out because of Gulliver's Travels reshoots. Like she was cast in Iron Man 2.
Wow.
And then contractual obligation.
Damn. The chance of a lifetime.
I know, but hey, people are still pulling for her to get Sue Storm in Fantastic Four.
With John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic.
People are pushing for that. We'll see.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, knock on wood, that they ever break up.
Oh, God. They seem happy.
Yeah, they seem
He's already
lovely.
directed her twice in both Quiet Places.
Yeah.
I do remember Joss Whedon being like, no one writes female characters like him. No one can write it like him. But, and now, like, knowing how he's treated people on sets. But I do think, like, especially comparing how Black Widow is in the first one, like, even in the first scene she's in, that interrogation scene, immediately 100 times better character.
Yeah. I like that she's always like one step ahead.
Yeah.
Like especially
she's so smart in this. Like she's not just like, I am a good female character because I can kick someone's ass. Like, she outsmarts like everyone in that interrogation scene. She outsmarts Loki.
Yeah, the outsmarting Loki scene was really cool because I was like, I fully believed that she was, just like torn up about Hawkeye, and because I mean, like, that would be a fine response. That's like, yeah, you're worried about your friend, and also this dude is like playing on all your weaknesses. But then she goes, "Gotcha, bitch."
Yeah. Like that scene is so good. Of just like she doesn't have any superpowers, but I can't see any of the other members doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think they do a really good job making her a valuable member of the team. And I think it's fun because it's a throwback to the original Avengers with when Loki has kind of the mind control over Hulk, or he doesn't really mind control him, but an explosion goes off and Hulk gets crazy, and then it's kind of the antagonist for that because that's how in the comics the Avengers originally got together.
Was to fight Hulk?
Yeah, well Loki specifically uses he mind controls Hulk to attack Thor, and then Iron Man. Ant-Man and the Wasp join up with them, and they free them of Hulk's mind and then beat up Loki.
Wow.
And then I think they find Captain America like 4 issues later, is what I remember hearing.
Wow.
But yeah, I think I remember hearing that Joss Whedon originally didn't write Black Widow into the first draft of the script. He had put Wasp in because Riley's a big fan of Wasp.
Yeah.
And then they got her 10 years later.
10 years later. I still have not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's one of the few I'm not caught up on.
That's fine.
That's what I hear. That's why I haven't.
It's fine.
Made an effort.
It's a middle one.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's something that a lot of people complained about when the movie came out. What are your thoughts on? That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
I think it's a great line, and it spawned a good meme. But I think
I'm always hungry.
I think it's a really cool scene too when he transforms and then punches that giant monster. It's awesome. But that being said, I did immediately have the thought, like, is he angry? Is he always angry? I don't feel that way. But I guess it's like a deep down thing. Like he's like, and he talks about being, having to fight it and everything. And there is that part where he like slams on the table, but then he says, "Oh, I just wanted to see what you would do." So maybe he is just good at hiding it. But I did think like, I don't feel like he's angry.
Yeah, I think that was more of just like I have this under control. I don't need to get angry to do this.
Yeah.
Which I guess because it was confusing at the time because we didn't know if Incredible Hulk was exactly canon, but at the very end of that movie, kind of alludes to that. Oh, he's gotten this under control. I do love the lovely cameo by beloved actor Harry Dean Stanton. Do not
from Walking Dead.
No, from the original Alien.
Yes.
Yeah,
wait, no, I wrote that down.
He's the custodian who finds Hulk. Son, you've got a condition.
He's awesome. I thought he was so funny.
Yeah. That's just like a fun little role for just like that character actor.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and then like I remember just like that I've watched that end action scene so many times. And I think the movie as a whole is a good kind of building of action. Yeah. Like that there's like that first little scene of like Loki being chased by Maria Hill. Like I think that, and like then he shoots a helicopter down. Yeah. Which that's a cool scene. It's not like, it's not going to have the audience go nuts. Yeah. But then like you get the little bit about them fighting in Germany and then all the heroes fighting in the woods, which doth mother know that you weareth her drapes.
That's I feel it is a very good balance of like action to story, and all great action movies. There's a story in the action.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on the end, the end fight, the end climax?
I thought it was pretty freaking sweet. I will say, there was a moment where I really liked when I think it's Cap, Hawkeye, and Black Widow are together at the end, and they're like, "All right, suit up, let's go." And I think everyone else is scattered. Yeah. And so I did kind of wish, and they still have that really cool like suit up part where even though everyone's scattered, they have a montage of everyone like grabbing their weapons
Thor
and stuff.
Kinda getting his new armor on.
And I thought that was really cool, but I did wish that they had made up before that so that they could all be together at the beginning of the fight. Yeah. But they do have a great moment.
I do love I remember being as a kid, everyone loved when the talk between Iron Man and Loki, like the line that was in every trailer of like, "I have an army, we have a Hulk." Yeah. And
I was waiting for it. I was like, I remember this. Yeah. Loki's motivation I thought was actually really good, but they didn't like focus on it that much because I feel like he kind of feels like I am villain. I am doing villain things. Bit.
But he's so fun. He is
fun, and I feel like when you actually think about his motivation, it's really good because it's because he's overshadowed by his brother and he never got to have his kingdom, so now he wants to rule. So I feel like as you see a lot of supervillains that are like, I'm gonna be king of Earth, it's like, okay, whatever. But it's
this one's like, oh, he feels entitled to a throne, so he really and he sees humans as so meek.
Yeah, and anyone can relate to that feeling like you had something taken from you. So it's like it kind of makes him kind of not relatable, but like you can see where he's coming from, which is always good for a villain. But I thought that was interesting. More than Ultron. I'm just kidding. I don't remember what Ultron's deal is.
I need to rep because on my DVD I was watching, they had a bunch the ads were so good before it, but there was one for like Marvel on Disney XD. They had a Spider-Man show where he was voiced by Drake Bell.
Okay,
has not held up.
Yeah,
but
confirmed then Predator Drake Bell,
child endangerer.
Oh, excuse me.
Our lawyers are telling us to play it, but they had an Avengers show called Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
I remember that. Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
I didn't watch it, but I think I saw ads when in the morning I get ready for school and watch Zeke and Luther.
First time I've heard someone mention Zeke and Luther. Definitely riding off the success of Drake and Josh.
Are any of them in that?
No, just with the title.
Oh yeah.
Two guys, two bros.
Yeah.
But Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes is legitimately a great comic book show. Like that one takes itself a lot more seriously. It's not as jokey as like the Spider-Man one with Drake Bell was, and it like genuinely adapts a lot of the comic stories really well. It's the original like 5 that they start with. It starts with Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, and Wasp. And then but like the big thing that happens is like SHIELD has like all the supervillains, like all these supervillains like in maximum security prison, and then in like these 4 big prisons. And then there's one day there's a massive breakout, but then they have a part 2 of that where this one villain who has a personal connection, Nick Fury, comes out who like can control gravity.
Oh shit.
And so that one I was like, is Loki and a kind of faceless army the best foil to them, or would it? I guess it does. In the animation it works really well because they fight Graviton or Gravitron, whatever, and he's just like throwing all this shit at them and flying through the air. But yeah, the show was good. Oh, did you enjoy when he smashes Loki?
Yeah.
That was the biggest like crowd cheer moment of the
I feel like I remember that from trailers, which I feel like is a weird thing to show in trailers.
Was.
I also thought, because every time in when I've seen Thor Ragnarok a couple times because I like Taika Waititi, and they talk about like how they fought before, I was like, what are they talking about? I guess it's in this movie when they fight.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. Oh, and what other thing I did find out when looking through IMDb trivia is, did you notice how in Pepper Potts' scenes, she, at least in the first one that she's in with Tony, she's walking around barefoot?
I didn't, but I did notice she was wearing jean shorts, which I guess makes sense because she's at home. But I was like, this seems weird.
I know she's barefoot, and I'm like, is that a creepy Joss Whedon thing? Like they're not focusing on it because she's barefoot, and Robert Downey Jr. is wearing like sneakers. But then I read in the IMDb trivia that's because Robert Downey Jr. is wearing like 3-inch platforms on the shoes.
Oh, is he short?
He's like you know, like 5'8" or something, which is shorter than like, you know, the average leading man.
Oh, is Gwyneth Paltrow really tall?
Probably like 5'9" or something.
Oh. I thought you were gonna say it's because she's like a naturalist and didn't want to wear shoes.
No. Which I think Gwyneth Paltrow's a really weird human being, but I think she's great in these movies.
Yeah, no, she's awesome.
I thought like her scenes, and also I did get a little choked up when Iron Man catches the nuke and is flying it in, and it starts calling Pepper, and just like that moment of like he doesn't get to say goodbye to her, which he does in Endgame. Yeah,
which was so surprising. That's why I was like, is this foreshadowing? Because I felt like we were going through the same beats, but they happened differently.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, which was the most surprising thing I found in the illustrious IMDb trivia, was that it was Joss Whedon's idea to have a bigger villain that sent Loki. Yeah, he had the idea that it'd be Thanos, according to IMDb trivia. You know, take that with a grain of salt, but apparently, you know, I find that so bizarre because it seems like Marvel always has these ideas, you know, a million years in advance. And I think there was recently an event where Kevin Feige was like, yeah, right after I'm done here, I'm going to a retreat and we're planning out the next 10 years of Marvel movies.
Yeah. Who knows what they could come up with?
I know.
We know Blade.
Oh, Blade. You were losing it after when there was the Blade deal at the end credit scene of Eternals.
I know. I was like, and weirdly, I don't know what tipped me off, but something during Eternals itself, I kept thinking, we're getting a Blade. We're getting a Blade. And then when that happened, I was like, yes.
Just that little voice off screen. You just thought it was a sword.
Yeah. Yeah, even that is badass.
I think it is crazy to be like 10 years ago they knew who the big villain was going to be of all of this.
He was much purpler then.
Yeah, he was.
Or a different shade, purple.
He had like human hands, you can tell. He looked like a normal sized person.
Yeah.
And I think that was makeup on an actor.
What I wanted to know was, did they know it was Josh Brolin yet?
No, he was not cast. He was cast probably a year later, I think, because he's in Guardians 2 years later.
Yeah.
Because we definitely knew he was cast by that point. But yeah, this has been a very long talk. But I
guess I would say go check out Avengers.
I guess, you know, if you wanna.
Yeah. After you get done with Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
Oh yeah, gotta get that Best Exotic Marigold Hotel in. But yeah, just to wrap up, Jacob, how this met your expectations?
Better. I didn't remember. I mean, obviously, I haven't watched it in 10 years. I didn't really feel the need to. I guess there were a couple of moments where I was like, oh, I haven't seen it in a while. I should check it out. But I just didn't for whatever reason.
Because also there's a million other Marvel movies.
Yeah, so I'd always have that need satiated because I just go, oh, here comes Eternals, Shang-Chi. But yeah, I had a great time. Flew by. It was like 2 hours 20, which seems about right.
About right for this kind of movie.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. I thought all the moments were fun. I liked seeing them all come together. It was really fun to see them all interact because I feel like they in the canon now they've all known each other for so long that it was
having
like
them meet.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, I forgot that like there had to be a time for them to meet. Like, you know, I feel like pretty much none of them had met each other except for Iron Man and Captain America. I mean, Iron Man and Black Widow.
Yeah. Even then, they weren't that close.
Yeah, and Black Widow and Hawkeye knew each other.
Yeah.
But like seeing them all come together and like how Iron Man respects Hulk because they're both smart and like they all know Captain America because he's a legend.
Yeah.
And they're comparing that to the man they see. The trading cards thing with Coulson always made me sad that he didn't get them signed.
Yeah, this one still great. Still fist pumping. I saw this movie came out at the exact perfect time.
Yeah.
For me, specifically us. Just because, like, especially, like, everyone has their franchise. The generation before us was probably Harry Potter that we kind of, were able to catch on to.
Yeah.
But this feels like our generation's kind of like, franchise we saw when we were 12 that now has become, every generation's franchise.
Yeah. Which I do sometimes feel a little weird about because, like I said, I was kind of late to the party. Where to the extent that sometimes I'll watch a Marvel movie and I really like it and I go, oh man, I wish I was like more of a Marvel kid growing up because I feel like this would mean more to me. But it is what it is. They won me over in the end.
But yeah, like I do think watching this, I was like, because I think I still had to rate like 10 out of 10 on Letterboxd because it was like perfect. Nothing else. Nothing I'd change. But then I was like, but like Infinity War, Endgame, like they are more. But honestly, this holds a special place in my heart still. It held up. It's a perfect, like, Infinity War and Endgame are a whole different beast.
Yeah.
And I think this one works perfectly for what it is. And it holds a very special place in film history because even recently in a class I'm in here in college, we talked with a person I'll leave unnamed, but they do a lot of work in marketing and they were in kind of the film marketing world. And I asked a question about like what was like, while in your time doing it, what was like the biggest like sea change? And she said it was the first Avengers.
Wow.
And it was like that was the moment that just like changed Hollywood. And I think especially because this comes out, it's the third highest grossing movie of all time.
Behind Titanic and Avatar.
The highest grossing non-James Cameron movie of all time.
Which is, we can talk about that later, but it's so strange to me that James Cameron shows up, makes the hugest movie ever, and then leaves for like years.
For a decade. Yeah. And now he's going to do it again.
Yeah.
We're back to the beginning. Avatar 2.
Mark my words, the way of water, baby.
The way of water. But yeah, I think we've said all we need to say.
Jake Sully.
So you know the name.
Yeah.
That is it for episode 4. This was a big one. This is the one that I knew we had to get to. We would pass if we slept on it.
Yeah. We hit our stride in time for Avengers.
Yeah.
Much like the superheroes.
But yeah. Jacob, where can the good people find you?
Hey, if you wanna see some shit takes and bad jokes, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Sanger, Saenger. And on Instagram at Commander in Beef with underscores in between the words. And on Letterboxd, I am also Jacob Sanger.
And you can find me at Collins Bolton on Instagram. And you can find me at CJS Films on Letterboxd. And, oh yeah, I guess join us next week.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if I know what we're doing next week.
Oh, next week, there's only one big wide release that comes out, which is the classic Tim Burton Johnny Depp vehicle.
Oh no.
Dark Shadows, which I have not seen.
I saw it on TV a long time ago.
But we did talk about this earlier, about a movie that came out in limited release a couple weeks earlier, but we have time to squeeze it in.
We must.
It is The Raid.
Hell yeah.
We are going to watch the first Raid, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, I have been waiting to show it to my roommates, so now I finally can.
But yeah, and then before we head out, I want to give a shout out to our lovely friend of the show, Sheldon Scholl, who wrote our lovely theme music.
Oh, yeah.
And
Thank you, Sheldon.
Yes, he wrote it after we recorded the second episode, so I wasn't able to thank him, and then I forgot the third episode. But yes, thank you, Sheldon. I love our theme music.
Yeah,
and
it's great.
Give him a follow as well. And also shout out to another friend of the show, Ryan Chang, who was driving to LA and said he was listening to the first 3 episodes.
Shout out
altogether.
Ryan. And said he liked some of my jokes. That
Yeah,
meant
he
a
called
lot.
it a zinger. Well, a sanger.
A zanger?
A zanger, yeah, there it is. Thank you for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, follow on the socials, share with your friends. Send us money if you want.
You can ask for my Venmo.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
See you next week.